Chapter 2381. Does this mean they won't dare to touch me even if they're stronger than me? Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as they flashed coldly. He had come to ask Chinny Ru because he did not know the strength of the dragons. His servants were all 3 tribulation bodiless celestials or stronger. Who knew if the person was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial or a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? If it was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, Duan Lingtian might be able to deal with him even if he used all his techniques. However, if it was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, he would not be a match for the person even if he used all his strength. Although he was worried about Gan Ruyan's safety, he did not want to recklessly throw his life away. As long as they can't guarantee that news of them killing you won't spread, they won't dare to touch you at all. Chinny Ru said confidently. In that case, let's make a trip to Zoroastrianism. I'd like to see where the people from the dragons get their courage from to ignore the agreement between the dragons and Senior Feng Qingyang. Duan Lingtian said in a deep voice. Then, Duan Lingtian brought Chinny Ru along and left without saying a word to anyone. After listening to Chinny Ru's words, Duan Lingtian knew he would not encounter any danger, so he did not have to worry about anything. Although it was a long journey from the northern region to the western region of Zoroastrianism, with Duan Lingtian and Chinny Ru's speed, it would only take them half a day to arrive. For this reason, Duan Lingtian felt there was no need for him to greet the others. After all, they would be back soon. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 figures flew past the sky above the Zoroastrianism's base. The speed of these 2 figures was so fast that even Zifeng, the strongest person in the fire worship sect, could not catch a glimpse of them. The owners of these 2 figures were none other than Duan Lingtian and his servant who had traveled for half a day and were covered in dust. Duan Lingtian led the way while Chinny Ru followed closely behind. Whoosh! Once again returning to Zoroastrianism and entering the holy land of Zoroastrianism, Duan Lingtian paused and stared at the floating island behind the clouds above the holy island without any emotion. Whoosh! Chinny Ru also came to a halt and stood respectfully behind Duan Lingtian. Dragons? I, Duan Lingtian, am here. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian opened his mouth. He did not deliberately suppress his voice. Once he spoke, his voice spread throughout the holy land of Zoroastrianism and even the entire Zoroastrianism base. Duan Lingtian. It's Duan Lingtian. He's back? Didn't he just leave a month ago? Why are you back so soon? I think he said something about 2 dragons. Dragons? There are dragons in our Zoroastrianism? In the Zoroastrianism base, the elders and disciples of Zoroastrianism were confused when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. They had no idea what was going on. Even the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, who had witnessed the servant at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage being killed by a palm strike from Gan Ruyan, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, were surprised by Duan Lingtian's return. Dragons? Duan Lingtian said those 2 are from the dragons? They're from the dragons? I remember when they came a few days ago, they only said they were looking for Duan Lingtian. They didn't reveal their identities at all. I didn't expect them to be from the dragons. The dragons have bodiless celestials as well. Moreover, that 3 tribulation bodiless celestial is only a servant. That young man must have a high status in the dragons, right? Or perhaps, his own strength far surpasses that of the servant by his side. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were shocked by the identities of the 2 people. They were even more shocked by the fact that the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial was only a servant. In their opinion, those who were able to make a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial or stronger a servant were not ordinary people. For example, Duan Lingtian had a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial as a servant. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian was the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolutes sect. He was also the sect leader of the 7 Absolutes sect. Moreover, he was strong enough to easily kill a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, even though he was only an eminent celestial. Previously, the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing, a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, had died in the hands of Duan Lingtian. When I think about the ancestor, I can't help but recall that when the ancestor saw Duan Lingtian was much stronger than him, He seemed to have said that Duan Lingtian was from the dragons. Could it be that the people from the dragon clan are here to avenge the ancestor? A golden flame elder of Zoroastrianism speculated. As soon as he finished speaking, two voices rang in the air. Bah! The ancestor is from Zoroastrianism. There's no way he's from the dragons. Based on your words, doesn't that mean the ancestor has betrayed Zoroastrianism and joined the dragons? That's impossible. This was one of the voices. Indeed, it's possible. After all, the ancestor had said he was from the dragons. I'm sure everyone, including me, has heard it clearly. Moreover, if the ancestor has really betrayed Zoroastrianism and joined the dragons, it's only logical that the dragons would seek revenge from Duan Lingtian. This was another voice. Naturally, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism who had spoken did not expect this. Although their ancestor had joined the dragons, he did not betray Zoroastrianism. This was because even Zoroastrianism was supported by the dragons and the phoenixes. The ancestor is dead. It's meaningless to say anything more. Let's see if Duan Lingtian can deal with the two dragons. As this voice spread, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism no longer harped on the topic. They immediately flew in the direction where Duan Lingtian's voice came from. In the blink of an eye, they were near Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is there, and his servant, Chuniru, is there too. When they saw Duan Lingtian, the eyes of many high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism lit up. There were also some high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism who looked gloomily at Duan Lingtian. If looks could kill, Duan Lingtian would have been killed many times over. Among these people, the former believed that the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing, had betrayed Zoroastrianism. The latter refused to believe that Li Bing had betrayed Zoroastrianism. Because of this, their attitude towards Duan Lingtian, the person who had killed Li Bing, was completely different. Why are you here? Soon, the leader of Zoroastrianism, Ganru Yin, arrived. When she saw Duan Lingtian, she was stunned. Obviously, she did not know why Duan Lingtian had suddenly come back. She clearly did not inform him. Leader. At this moment, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism bowed at Ganru Yin. However, Ganru Yin did not pay any attention to them. Her eyes were still trained on Duan Lingtian. A complicated expression could be seen in her eyes. I'm the one who sent a message to Guardian Lingtian. Before Duan Lingtian could respond to Ganru Yin, a voice rang from behind Ganru Yin. Ganru Yin immediately turned around to look at the person behind her. Master, it's you? Why? Why did you? When Ganru Yin found out that it was her master who had sent a message to Duan Lingtian, she was so angry that she could barely suppress her emotions. If the other party was not her master, perhaps, she would have cursed out loud. I don't want to see you die. Qinghua, the guardian of Zoroastrianism, who was standing opposite Ganru Yin, replied to her in this manner. You don't want to see me die? Ganru Yin smiled bitterly. Then, she said with a bitter expression on her face, Master, if he dies because of me, do you think I'll still live in this world? Qinghua trembled when he heard Ganru Yin's words. He could not help but sigh. Silly child, I was wrong this time. He did not expect this. He did not expect his direct disciple to be so unyielding. Just as Ganru Yin was about to ask Duan Lingtian to leave, a voice rang out. You're Duan Lingtian? In the distance, a person spoke before Ganru Yin. When that person spoke, he was escorted by another middle-aged man as he stepped through the air and arrived. As soon as he appeared, he became the focus of everyone's attention. He stole the limelight from Duan Lingtian. You're the person behind Li Bing? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at the handsome young man who was flying toward him from afar. He did not answer the young man's question. Instead, he asked in return, the person behind Li Bing? When Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism could not help but look at each other in confusion. Some of them had an expression of, I knew it was true on their faces. Others had an expression of disbelief on their faces. They could not believe that the person whom Duan Lingtian identified as the person behind the dragons was the person behind the patriarch of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing. How could the person behind their patriarch be the person behind the dragons? They did not dare to believe it, nor did they want to believe it. How dare you? As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the middle-aged man behind the handsome young man shouted coldly. Then, he said, Duan Lingtian, Lord Dichun is the one who asked you a question. Not only did you not answer, but you even questioned Lord Dichun. Do you really think you can act so arrogantly and look down on Lord Dichun just because you're the sect leader of 7 Absolute sect? Dichun? Many high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism narrowed their eyes when they heard the middle-aged man's words. This was because, as far as they knew, Dichun's name was Dichun. In the entire Dao Martial Saintland, only the members of the Imperial Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon progeny, used the surname Di. This handsome and mysterious young man was a member of the Imperial Dragon Clan, the Golden Dragon progeny? You're the one who's bold. Chapter 2382. As a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, Chen Yiru could tell the middle-aged man standing behind Dichun was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. Even he did not think much of a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. How could he tolerate the fact that the middle-aged man dared to make a fuss in front of his master? 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism who were present on the scene had already guessed the middle-aged man was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. After all, the middle-aged man standing behind Dichun was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, guesses were just guesses. When Chen Yiru revealed the other party's cultivation, they couldn't help but feel shocked. Chen Yiru said coldly, infuriating the middle-aged man. He said mockingly, as a bodiless celestial and a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial on top of that, you're a disgrace to us bodiless celestials. You're a disgrace to us bodiless celestials. A mocking smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face when he reached the end of his sentence. Humph! Chen Yiru scoffed. His expression did not change as he said mockingly, aren't you also like a servant who follows behind others? Do you think you're qualified to mock me? You! The middle-aged man was furious, but he did not know how to refute Chen Yiru's words. Indeed, he was like a servant in front of Dichun. Master, Dichun is a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. At the same time, Chen Yiru did not forget to remind Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. His true form is a 7-clawed golden dragon. Moreover, his father is one of the strongest powerhouses in the Dragon Clan. Currently, he's a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial as well. 5-tribulation bodiless celestial? Upon hearing Chen Yiru's words, Duan Lingtian no longer feared Chen Yiru. As it turned out, he was worried Dichun's cultivation base was higher than a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial. In the end, he had no choice but to use the agreement between the Dragon's clan and Feng Qingyang to force Dichun to return to the Dragon's bodiless celestial. However, it seemed like there was no need for him to do that. He could easily deal with a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian. At this time, Dichun looked at Duan Lingtian with a sharp gaze and said coldly, as the saying goes, before you beat a dog, you have to look at its owner. You killed my people, which is tantamount to slapping my face. Considering that the 7 Absolute sect and the dragons have some friendship in the past, I will not kill you. However, you have to kneel down and kowtow to me as an apology. As long as you kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, this matter will be resolved, and I will not pursue it any further. Emperor Qin's face was full of arrogance as he spoke. It seemed as if he was a high and mighty god overlooking a weak mortal. As soon as Dichun said this, Duan Lingtian's face immediately darkened. How dare you? Chen Yiru flew into a rage. Dichun from the dragons said that Duan Lingtian killed his people? Don't tell me he's talking about the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing? It's possible. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence in this world? I think it's possible as well. Upon hearing Dichun's words, many of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism could not help but speculate. The person Dichun said that Duan Lingtian killed might be the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing. Before you beat a dog, you have to look at its owner. In front of this Dichun, the ancestor of Zoroastrianism is just a dog? Some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were furious. but they did not dare to show it. Impossible. Some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism refused to admit it. They thought it was just a coincidence. Ha 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 ha. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian. They were curious if Duan Lingtian would kneel and kowtow, like Dichen had said. However, Duan Lingtian suddenly burst out laughing. His laughter was like a clap of thunder that reverberated through the heavens. What? You don't want to kneel and kowtow? Dichen narrowed his eyes. His tone was cold. Dichen. As soon as Dichen finished speaking, Duan Lingtian stopped laughing. His cold eyes immediately landed on Dichen. As long as you kneel and kowtow to me 3 times, I'll let you leave. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the entire place fell silent. Just a moment ago, Dichen had threatened Duan Lingtian. Then, Duan Lingtian had threatened Dichen. Master. Chunyi Ru was shocked by Duan Lingtian's words. He quickly said through voice transmission, I know it's not difficult for you to kill Dichen with your strength. However, Dichen is not an ordinary member of the dragons. His father is one of the strongest powerhouses among the dragons. He's at least a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. If you kill him, his father won't let this matter rest. Chunyi Ru said through voice transmission. His tone was filled with dread. A 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. For an existence at that level, killing him was as simple as killing a chicken or cutting grass. Even his master was no match for such a powerhouse. I know what I'm doing. Duan Lingtian only responded indifferently when he heard Chunyi Ru's words. Chunyi Ru was puzzled by Duan Lingtian's words, but he did not know what to say. Ha ha ha. This time, it was Dichen's turn to laugh. It was as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. After a while, Dichen finally stopped laughing. He looked at Duan Lingtian coldly and said, Duan Lingtian, do you really think you can look down on everyone just because you're as strong as a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial? Today, I'll show you that there are many people who can defeat you. I believe there are many people who can defeat me, but that doesn't include you, Dichen. Duan Lingtian said indifferently, Is that so? Then, I'll show you. Even if you're as strong as a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, I'll still be able to defeat you. Dichen's celestial elemental energy surged out of his body as soon as his voice faded. It shook the void and left a long and narrow crack in the void. From the looks of it, it would take at least a quarter of an hour for the cracks to completely close. He had seen Duan Lingtian's attack through the mirror image talisman. It was the time when Duan Lingtian had killed Li Bing. Since he had seen Duan Lingtian's attack, he knew Duan Lingtian was weaker than him. Although he was a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, his strength was at the peak of 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. In 6 months, he would undergo his 6th bodiless celestial tribulation and become a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial. Ordinary 5-tribulation bodiless celestials were nothing to him. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was just an ordinary 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. 5th tribulation loose immortal? This Dichen is actually a 5th tribulation loose immortal? After Dichen finished speaking, the power in his body skyrocketed. All the Zoroastrianism leaders present were shocked. On the other hand, Ganru Yin, the leader of Zoroastrianism, was no longer worried when she learned that Dichen was only a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. Because she knew a 5th tribulation scattered immortal was still no match for Duan Lingtian. Then I really want to see it for myself. Hearing Dichen's words, Duan Lingtian sneered. Shortly after, an aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and earth erupted from his body. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Accompanied by a series of ear-piercing sword sounds, Duan Lingtian's body once again shot out beams of solidified white sword light. These sword rays whizzed out from every pore on his body, and there were countless of them. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian's body was quickly enveloped by the white sword lights that shot out from his body. Following that, Duan Lingtian's body seemed to have merged with the white sword lights as though he had become a part of them. Is Master going to use his full strength? Chunyi Ru narrowed his eyes, but at the same time, a look of expectation appeared on his face. After all, He had only seen his master's strength that was comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Based on what he knew, when his master unleashed his full strength, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, he had never seen it before. At this moment, he realized his master was going to use his full strength. To deal with Di Chen, the dragons. I hope master will show mercy and won't kill him. Otherwise, Di Chen's father won't be easy to deal with. At this moment, Chunyi Ru was looking forward to witnessing Duan Tian's true strength. At the same time, he was worried Duan Tian would accidentally kill Di Chen. Under the watchful eyes of the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism, Duan Tian's body transformed into a part of the sword lights that shot out from his body. Following that, the sword lights shrunk rapidly. In the end, it transformed into a 3-foot-long sword under everyone's watchful eyes. This 3-foot-long blade was suspended in the air. Its entire body was milky white. Initially, it emitted a faint white light around it. However, in the end, the white light was completely withdrawn, causing this 3-foot-long blade to appear simple and unadorned. Di Chen, use your full strength. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have a second chance to attack. At this moment, 2 voices resonated from the milky white sword hovering in the air. Everyone could tell it was Duan Tian's voice. Duan Tian has transformed into a sword? Could this be the legendary technique that the sword saint, Feng Qingyang, once performed, the body and sword as one? Duan Tian's achievement in the sword Dao has reached such a level? Among the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism, there were many knowledgeable people who could easily tell Duan Tian had used the body and sword union technique. Body and sword union? Even Di Chen could not help but narrow his eyes when he saw Duan Tian had transformed into a 3-foot-long sword. Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, is the body and sword union after the sword manipulation art. The latter is much stronger than the former. Duan Tian only used the sword manipulation art to kill Li Bing. Chapter 2383. Roar. Although Di Chen had lost his confidence, he did not lose his will to fight. He let out a beast-like roar as his energy surged like a fireball. When Di Chen's energy surged like a fireball, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism felt as though a scorching sun had appeared in front of them. They could not help but squint their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they saw Di Chen had disappeared. To be more precise, Di Chen's human body had disappeared. A 1,000-meter-long divine dragon appeared in the void where Emperor Chen had been standing. It meandered down from the horizon and shrouded a large part of the sky. It blotted out the sun. It was awe-inspiring. This was a divine dragon that was completely golden in color. The dragon's scales on its body were shining with a golden luster, which was extremely dazzling. Apart from that, the divine dragon had 7 claws on each of its claws. Each of its claws was extremely sharp, as though it could tear through anything. A 7-clawed golden dragon. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were shocked when they saw the divine dragon. It seems like Di Chen has decided to go all out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reverted to his true form before he made his move. Dragons are the strongest when they fight in their true forms. This is especially true for bodiless celestials. When a bodiless celestial is a bodiless celestial, external items from the mundane realm are of little help to them. They have to rely on their own strength to fight. Not only is Di Chen a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, but he's also a 7-clawed divine dragon. I'm afraid he's one of the strongest 5-tribulation bodiless celestials. Duan Tian isn't weak as well. When he killed our 4-tribulation bodiless celestial ancestor of Zoroastrianism, our ancestor said his strength is comparable to a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, he's using the rumored body and sword fusion technique created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. I wonder, between the two of them, who will be the final victor? The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism stared at the sword and dragon in front of them intently, waiting for the battle to end. Duan Tian, I didn't expect you've comprehended the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword. the Sword Dao mental cultivation method created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. However, you'll still lose in front of me, Di Chun. Emperor Chun was no longer confident in his heart. In fact, he was even somewhat nervous. However, he still understood the principle of not losing momentum. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian was not swayed by his words. Is that so? Then I'd like to see it. Emperor Chen had transformed into the seven-clawed golden dragon and had opened his mouth to issue a sound. Simultaneously, the milky white 3-foot-long sword had also issued a sound in the distance. It was Duan Lingtian's voice. Roar. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the seven-clawed golden dragon that Di Chun had transformed into roared furiously at the sky. An earth-shattering roar reverberated in the air as a terrifying sound wave swept out, causing the air to tremble as though it would collapse at any moment. When the sound wave spread out, some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, who had a weaker cultivation base, felt a piercing pain in their eardrums. Some of them even had their eardrums ruptured. Even those with a higher cultivation base felt chills running down their spines when they heard the dragon's roar. So this is the seven-clawed golden dragon that's a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial? Just one roar is enough to kill some of the Saint Celestial stage powerhouses with a lower cultivation base. Many of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism shuddered in fear. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, the seven-clawed golden dragon that Di Chun had transformed into streaked across the sky. Its speed was getting faster and faster. In just a few moments, it had disappeared from the eyes of most of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism. Only a few guardians of Zoroastrianism could vaguely see the seven-clawed divine dragon's figure. After a few moments, even the guardians of Zoroastrianism could no longer see the seven-clawed divine dragon. It was as though the seven-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of meters long had disappeared into thin air. Chi, 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 chi. Naturally, they knew the seven-clawed golden dragon did not really disappear. It was just that its speed was so fast that they could not see it with their naked eyes. At this moment, they could only vaguely see the seven-clawed divine dragon. In the space between the seven-clawed golden dragon and the 3-foot-long sword that Duan Lingtian had transformed into, a long and ferocious crack appeared. Looking at the extent of the cracks, it would take at least 15 minutes for them to close up again. From this, it could be seen that Di Chun had made his move without holding back. Swoosh! Emperor Chen had transformed into a seven-clawed golden dragon and had disappeared in front of most people's eyes. Then, the milky white 3-foot-long sword that had been floating in the distance also disappeared in front of most people's eyes, along with a burst of sword whistling sound. At this moment, only Chen Yiru, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, and the 3-tribulation bodiless celestial who was standing next to Di Chun could vaguely see the figures of the dragon and the sword. How could it be so fast? The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial who was standing next to the dragons narrowed his eyes when he heard the sword cry. An expression of shock and disbelief appeared on his face. At this moment, he could still see more of the seven-clawed golden dragon Di Chen's figure. However, the 3-foot-long sword only left a mark in front of him. Its speed was much faster than Di Chen's figure. For this reason, he was shocked. They're not even on the same level. The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons felt his scalp go numb as fear rose in his heart. I hope nothing happens to Lord Di Chun. Otherwise, I'll definitely die. At this moment, the 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons thought about himself. He could already foresee this. If Di Chun were to die here today, his father, the supreme elder of the dragons, would definitely kill him. Duan Lingtian, if you dare to kill Lord Di Chun, the supreme elder of the dragons won't let you and the 7 absolutes sect go. The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons cried out in an attempt to stop Duan Lingtian from killing Duan Lingtian. He could see this. Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial when he cast the body sword fusion technique. He was not a match for Di Chun. Although Di Chun was considered one of the strongest 5-tribulation bodiless celestials, he was still considered one of the strongest 5-tribulation bodiless celestials. However, There was a huge gap between a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial and a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial who was invincible among 5 tribulation bodiless celestials would not be a match for a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial unless he had a celestial supreme treasure or a divine ability from a Devata realm. No matter how weak a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial was, a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial was still a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. How's this possible? As soon as Duanling Tian made his move, Di Chun, who had transformed into a 7-clawed golden dragon, looked at Duanling Tian in disbelief with a hint of horror in his eyes. He discovered the speed of the sword was extremely fast. The speed of the sword had surpassed the speed of a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial and was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? How's this possible? The first thought that appeared in Di Chin's mind was that it was unbelievable. However, the truth was right in front of him. No matter how unbelievable it was, he could not deny that it was real. Chi, 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 chi. When Channy Ru saw Duanling Tian tearing a rift in the void that was twice as long as the 7-clawed golden dragon that Di Qian had transformed into, he could not help but pray inwardly. Duanling Tian had transformed into a 3-foot-long blade that was twice as long as the 7-clawed golden dragon. I hope Master won't kill Di Qian. Otherwise, he'll be in big trouble. Whether it was Channy Ru's reaction, Emperor Qin's reaction, or the reaction of the 3 tribulation scattered celestial from the dragon clan, everything happened in a flash. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As the sound of sword cries rang in the air, Di Chun was shocked to see the 3-foot-long sword. When the milky white 3-foot-long blade that Duanling Tian had transformed into was about to reach him, he split into a few clones and charged at him together. Just one of the clones has strength comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Emperor Chun had also discovered this when he had defeated one of the 3-foot-long green sword's clones. So, he couldn't help but feel indescribably shocked in his heart. This is bad. In the next moment, Di Chin's expression changed drastically. This was because he discovered that the original body of the 3-foot-long sword and the other clones had already swept past his enormous body with an unstoppable momentum, causing him to feel waves of heart-wrenching pain at the first moment. Channy Ru was dumbfounded when he saw this. Emperor Qin had transformed into a 7-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of meters long. But now, his dragon tail and all of his dragon claws were forcibly chopped off by the sword lights. The body of the dragons was said to be invincible, but it was as though it was made of paper in the face of the sword rays. Emperor Qin's body didn't continue to move at such a fast speed at this time. Therefore, he appeared clearly in front of everyone's eyes. The entire place was deathly silent at this moment. A moment ago, the 7-clawed golden dragon had been so majestic in front of them. Now, not only was its tail cut off, but all of its claws were also chopped off. At this moment, the gigantic 7-clawed golden dragon seemed to have transformed into a gigantic earthworm. Swoosh! Another sword cry resonated in the air. This time, the 3-foot-long sword that Duanling Tian had transformed into appeared in front of the 7-clawed golden dragon with a severed tail and claws. It emitted a sword ray that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. Chapter 2384. Kneel down and kowtow? Or die? Duanling Tian's words rang from the 3-foot-long sword that was pointed at the 7-clawed golden dragon's head. The sword chi on the 3-foot-long sword was so sharp that it made people feel like they had no choice but to believe him. Even Di Chun could not help but feel a chill run down his spine when he heard Duanling Tian's words. At this moment, only he could clearly sense how terrifying the 3-foot-long blade floating before his eyes was. As long as the sword light emitted from the blade touched his body, it would definitely be able to easily pierce through his body. This was because the power it contained was comparable to the attack of a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial. Duanling Tian, let's forget about this matter. You don't have to kneel down and kowtow to me anymore. Emperor Qian eventually lowered his arrogant head in the face of the 3-feet-long sword in front of him. Ha 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 ha. However, as soon as Di Qian finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian's laughter rang from the 3-foot-long sword hovering in front of Di Chun. It was as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. He did not stop laughing for a long time. Swoosh. As soon as Duan Ling Tian stopped laughing, the 3-foot-long blade hovering in front of Di Chun's eyes swept across at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. At this moment, even the weakest high-ranking official in the fire worship sect could see the trajectory of the 3-foot-long blade as it streaked across the sky. However, the 3-foot-long sword swung at a moderate speed. Roar! As the 7-clawed golden dragon roared in pain, another section of the 7-clawed divine dragon's body that was thousands of meters long was severed. This section was several hundred meters long. However, it wasn't enough to endanger Emperor Qin's life. Instead, it was enough to make him feel heart-wrenching pain. Although a bodiless celestial's body was considered a body of energy, he could still feel pain. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Di Chun's 7-clawed golden dragon shone brightly. Following that, its severed body rapidly recovered, including its tail and claws. All of them were restored to their original state. However, after his body had recovered, everyone present could clearly sense that Di Chun's aura had weakened a little. Clearly, itinerant immortals would need to expend a large portion of their strength to recover their damaged bodies. Whoosh! After Di Chun's 7-clawed golden dragon body was restored to its original state, another burst of golden light burst out, causing everyone present to squint their eyes again. When everyone opened their eyes again, they saw that the golden light had shrunk rapidly. In the end, the 7-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of meters long had disappeared and was replaced by Di Chun's human body. Di Chun returned to his human form. Whoosh! However, even though Emperor Qin had transformed into a human, the 3-foot-long sword in the void was still following him all the time. It was swallowing and spitting out sword light while pointing at the space between his eyebrows. It seemed as if it could take his life at any time. Duan Ling Tian. Emperor Qin's complexion turned gloomy. His throat moved, and he issued a roar. Don't go too far. Go too far? Duan Ling Tian's voice rang from the 3-foot-long sword. He sneered. I should be the one saying that to you, right? I don't want to waste my breath on you. If you don't kneel and kowtow within 10 breaths, you'll die here. Duan Ling Tian's words became even colder after he sneered. Duan Ling Tian. My father is a supreme elder of the Dragon Clan. He's a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. Upon hearing Duan Ling Tian's words, Di Chun's eyes narrowed. At the same time, he brought up his father in an attempt to pressure Duan Ling Tian. In his opinion, his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. Even though Duan Ling Tian's strength was comparable to a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial, he was no match for his father. 8 more breaths of time. Just when Di Chun thought that Duan Ling Tian would take a step back out of fear of his father, Duan Ling Tian's words rang in his ears. He was so shocked that his pupils shrank, and he couldn't recover for a long time. How could this Duan Ling Tian remain unmoved after finding out his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial? Was this Duan Ling Tian not afraid that his father would avenge him? Hiss, 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 hiss. Meanwhile, the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism gasped when they regained their senses. Earlier, when Di Chun said his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial, the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism were in a daze. When they saw Duan Ling Tian ignoring Di Chun's threat, they regained their senses. Di Chun brought up his father, a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial, but Duan Ling Tian ignored him. Duan Ling Tian isn't afraid of a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial? Don't tell me the strength Duan Ling Tian displayed isn't his true strength? That's impossible. While the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism were discussing among themselves, Duan Ling Tian's voice rang in the air again. 5 more breaths of time. 5 more breaths of time. Di Chun regained his senses when he heard Duan Ling Tian's words. He looked at Duan Ling Tian in disbelief, as though he had just seen a ghost. Duan Ling Tian, aren't you worried my father will seek revenge for me? 4 more breaths of time. Duan Ling Tian's voice rang in the air again, indirectly answering Di Chun's question. You. At this moment, Di Chen realized Duan Lingtian was indeed not worried about his father seeking revenge. He could not help but feel wary. Don't tell me the strength Duan Lingtian displayed earlier isn't his true strength? His true strength is comparable to a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial? It seems like that's the only reason he's not afraid of my father. Emperor Qin's pupil shrank as he thought of this. His heart trembled with fear. Naturally, it's also possible that he's just trying to be mysterious and is not afraid of death. Di Chen thought of another possibility. 2 more breaths of time. Duan Lingtian's voice continued to ring in the air. It shocked Di Chen so much that he shuddered and quickly regained his senses. At the same time, he felt conflicted. On one hand, he had to kneel down and kowtow, throwing away his dignity. On the other hand, he had to die. He did not want to throw away his dignity, but he did not want to die. 1 more breath of time. Duan Lingtian's voice rang in the air again. This time, his voice was even colder than before. The 3-foot-long sword suspended in front of Emperor Qin's eyebrows became increasingly fierce as this voice resounded. Moreover, it was filled with waves of awe-inspiring murderous aura. It seemed as if it was about to devour a person. Whoosh! Di Chen shuddered again. In the end, he could only kneel down with a humiliated expression on his face. At this moment, his face was flushed red from anger. However, he had nowhere to vent his anger. He knelt down? When the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism saw Di Chen kneeling down, they were shocked. Even Gan Ruyin, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, widened her eyes in shock. This handsome young man was a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Moreover, he had an extraordinary background. However, he was kneeling in front of Duan Lingtian. Di Chen's father is a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. It's not appropriate for him to do this, right? Gan Ruyin was worried about Duan Lingtian. Phew! Chen Yiru, who was standing in the distance, sighed in relief when he saw this. It's a good thing Master didn't kill him. If he did, his father would definitely not let this matter rest. However, even if that's the case, I'm afraid Di Chen's father won't let this matter rest so easily. When Chen Yiru thought about this, he could not help but feel worried. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past as the 3-foot-long sword pointed at Di Chen's glabella shone brightly. Following that, a purple figure appeared. It was none other than Duan Lingtian. Kowtow! Duan Lingtian hovered in the air as he looked at Di Chen. His eyes were emotionless, and his voice was emotionless. Duan Lingtian, you? How dare you? The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragon clan who had followed Di Chen to the fire worship sect cried out as soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking. It was as though he was trying to stop Duan Lingtian. Chen Yiru's expression darkened when he was about to explode. Whoosh! The sound of a sword whistling rang in the air before Chen Yiru could do anything. Duan Lingtian pushed his hand forward, and a white sword ray shot out from his palm. The sword ray circled the 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons and severed his limbs. The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons cried out in pain. His face turned pale as he tried to regrow his limbs. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, a horrified expression appeared on his face. He did not dare to make a sound. Duan Lingtian, are you sure you want me to kowtow? When Di Chen heard Duan Lingtian's words, he clenched his teeth and asked in humiliation, What? Do you want me to repeat myself? Duan Lingtian sneered. Don't forget you're the one who suggested kowtowing. Good, good, good. After Di Chen growled a few times, he kowtowed to Duan Lingtian as his body trembled. In the process of kowtowing, he clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. No matter if it was his hands or the corner of his mouth, traces of blood flowed out at the same time. Swoosh! After kowtowing 3 times, Di Chen rose to his feet and left the Zoroastrianism Holy Land and Zoroastrianism. He did not want to stay in this place where he had lost all his dignity. Duan Lingtian, if I don't kill you, I, Di Chen, swear I'm not a human. I swear I'm not a human. Chapter 2385. Duan Lingtian, if I don't kill you, I, Di Chen, swear I'm not a human. I swear I'm not a human. Although Di Chun had only spoken after leaving the Zoroastrianism's base, his voice was so loud that it was clearly heard by everyone, including Duan Lingtian, in the Zoroastrianism sect. Di Chun, I'm sure he won't let this matter rest after he returns. I hope he won't vent his anger on Zoroastrianism. Otherwise, we won't be able to withstand his anger. Many high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism whispered among themselves with a fearful expression on their faces. It was as though Zoroastrianism was about to face a calamity. Some high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of blame in their eyes. However, none of them dared to voice their displeasure. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was not worried at all. If Duan Lingtian did not ask Di Chan to kneel and kowtow, he would not have angered Di Chun and put Zoroastrianism in danger. However, it seemed as though they had forgotten something. Di Chun was the one who asked Duan Lingtian to kneel and kowtow. Duan Lingtian was merely giving Duan Lingtian a taste of his own medicine. Meanwhile, Gan Ru Yin and Chinny Ru looked at Duan Lingtian worriedly. Perhaps the others would think that Duan Lingtian's true strength was not only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, but he was also a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Otherwise, how could Duan Lingtian ignore the threat from a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? However, Gan Ru Yin and Chinny Ru knew very well that Duan Lingtian's true strength was only comparable to Duan Lingtian's. Duan Lingtian's true strength was only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian was not a match for a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, they could not help but feel worried for Duan Lingtian. I'll wait for you. Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged as he indifferently spat out these 4 words when everyone's gazes landed on him in unison. These 4 words were not loud to the people present on the scene. However, it was filled with Duan Lingtian's strength. Duan Lingtian. Di Chun, who was traveling to the east. Duan Lingtian. I want you dead. Di Chun roared inwardly. Unknowingly, killing Duan Lingtian had become an obsession in Di Chun's heart. For a bodiless celestial who was about to face the bodiless celestial tribulation, having an obsession was taboo. Emperor Chun was also aware of this, but he couldn't help it. After all, he couldn't accept the humiliation he had suffered today. This was the first time in his life that he had to kneel and kowtow to someone. It was not difficult for him to imagine this. It would not take long for news of him kneeling and kowtowing to Duan Lingtian to spread throughout the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At that time, he would become a laughing stock in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Whoosh! After Di Chun left, the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons also left. Before he left, he looked at Duan Lingtian warily. When he saw Duan Lingtian had no intention of stopping him, he sighed in relief. Duan Lingtian merely watched the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons leave with Di Chun. He did not even stop Di Chun. Naturally, he would not stop the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. After the high-ranking officials from the Zoroastrianism left, only Duan Lingtian, Gan Ru Yin, and Chenny Ru remained. Even the burly middle-aged man standing behind Gan Ru Yin had retreated, not daring to disturb Duan Lingtian and the others. You shouldn't have done that. You humiliated Di Chun. His father won't let you go. Gan Ru Yin said with a sigh. He asked for it. Duan Lingtian said indifferently, if he didn't ask me to kneel and kowtow, I wouldn't have bothered with him. However, since he asked for it, he'll have to take responsibility for his words and pay the price for it. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, his eyes gleamed coldly. He would not offend those who did not offend him. However, if someone offended him, he was not someone who could be easily bullied. This was Duan Lingtian's principle. But his father is a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Gan Ru Yin said anxiously. So what? Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly. Don't tell me I have to compromise and let him humiliate me just because his father is a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Moreover, he's just a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. He's not qualified to make me, Duan Lingtian, bow to him. Why your strength is comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Gan Ru Yan's eyes widened. Chenny Ru looked at Duan Lingtian in shock. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then, his eyes flashed as he said slowly, however, "It won't be long now." Although Gan Ruyin and Chenny Ru were curious about Duan Lingtian's words, they did not probe further since Duan Lingtian did not intend to elaborate. You, on the other hand. Duan Lingtian looked at Gan Ruyin solemnly as he said, "Due to the relationship between Zoroastrianism and the dragons, Di Chun won't be able to take revenge on Zoroastrianism. However, I'm sure he'll be able to deal with you, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. After all, changing the sect leader of Zoroastrianism won't affect the foundation of Zoroastrianism." Duan Lingtian said, "I think it's best if you don't stay in Zoroastrianism anymore." "If I don't stay in Zoroastrianism, where else can I go?" Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Gan Ruyin was slightly moved. However, she could not help but smile bitterly as she said, "If I leave, I'll definitely bring Master with me. If Di Chun finds out about my relationship with Master, he'll definitely attack Master if he doesn't see me. Both of you, Master and disciple, should follow me back to the northern region. Coincidentally, Kerr and Sealing miss you as well," Duan Lingtian said. When Duan Lingtian returned to Zoroastrianism, it was a group of 2. However, when they left, it was a group of 5. Apart from Gan Ruyin, there was also Qinghua, the guardian of Zoroastrianism, and Gan Ruyin, the burly middle-aged man who used to follow Chenny Ru around. As for the skinny middle-aged man, he had been killed by the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. After Duan Lingtian and the others returned to the temporary estate of the 7 Absolutes sect in the northern region, the western region was not as peaceful as before. Duan Lingtian returned to Zoroastrianism and defeated Di Chun, the 7-clawed golden dragon who's a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. He even forced Di Chun to kneel and kowtow as he begged for mercy. Duan Lingtian's strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial at the very least. In fact, he might even be stronger. The current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, is as monstrous as Feng Qingyang, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny. When this news spread in the western region, it naturally caused a commotion in the western region. At the same time, the news spread like wildfire in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. In fact, this time around, it only took half a month for the news to spread throughout the entire upper province. The reason it was so quick was because the news was related to Di Chun, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Dragon Clan. For this reason, many bodiless celestials who lived in seclusion helped spread the news. In just 2 weeks, the news had spread like wildfire in the upper province. Heavens! The current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, is really heaven-defying. I can't believe there's a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial among the dragons. A 3 tribulation bodiless celestial is already stronger than an eminent celestial. How strong is a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? So what if a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial is strong? Didn't he still die in the hands of Duan Lingtian in the end? Duan Lingtian is really terrifying. Previously, he killed a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Zoroastrianism, but this time, he even killed a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Similar discussions could be heard everywhere in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The person Duan Lingtian killed, I think his name is Di Chun. As far as I know, the surname Di has always belonged to the Golden Dragon progeny from the Imperial Dragons. I heard Di Chun reverted to his true form during the battle with Duan Lingtian. His true form is a 7-clawed golden dragon. At the same time, many people's attention was focused on Emperor Chen's identity. The bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were in an uproar as well. Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the 7 Absolutes sect, managed to force Di Chun to kneel and kowtow? Monstrous. He's monstrous. He's monstrous indeed. It hasn't even been 100 years since Duan Lingtian rose to power. In less than 100 years, his strength is already comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. If he's given a few more years, who in the Dao Martial Saint Land would be able to defeat him? Even now, I don't think anyone would be able to defeat him. Who knows if his true strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? That's right. Previously, when he killed Li Bing, we thought his strength was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, it has only been slightly more than a month, and his strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Who knows, his strength might be even higher than this. Every time Duanling Tian makes a move, he gives people a different kind of shock. No one knows where his trump card is. After all, he's the successor of the Sword Saint. That Sword Saint could even kill an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. As his direct disciple, even if Duanling Tian isn't as strong as the Sword Saint, he shouldn't be too far off. We can't afford to offend Duanling Tian. Duanling Tian was unaware that the group of bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland had already regarded him as a tiger and were extremely wary of him. In the eastern region, in the 100,000 mountains, at the dragon's estate, 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? We dragons have bodiless celestials as well? Di Chun, isn't he the grand elder of the dragons from 6,000 years ago? He's still alive? Moreover, he even became a bodiless celestial? Chapter 2386. I didn't expect this. When I heard about bodiless celestials, I thought we dragons might have bodiless celestials as well. I didn't expect there to be one. The bodiless celestials of the dragons are 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. Why don't I feel happy when I find out we have a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? A 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from our dragon clan was forced to kneel, kowtow, and beg for mercy by the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect. Who in the dragon clan wouldn't be angry or happy? Many members of the dragons discussed among themselves. They were surprised by the existence of a bodiless celestial among the dragons, and they were furious that Duanling Tian, the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect, had forced their bodiless celestial to kneel and kowtow to beg for mercy. These members of the dragons were unaware of the existence of bodiless celestials because they were unaware of the existence of bodiless celestials. The dragons in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland were divided into the outer clan and the inner clan. The outer tribes included all those below the eminent celestial stage in the dragon clan. Among these outer tribes, only a few high-ranking members knew about bodiless celestials and were aware that there were many bodiless celestials in the dragon clan. However, they were unaware that there were 2 types of bodiless celestials. The bodiless celestials of the dragons were divided into 2 types. One type was the bodiless celestials of the dragons, and the other type was the bodiless celestials from the 3 great sects who were forcibly brought back to the dragons by the bodiless celestials. The dragon's residence was divided into 3 areas. One area was for the outer clan, the other was for the inner clan, and the last area was for the bodiless celestials from the 3 great sections. From this, it could be seen that the inner clan of the dragons consisted of the bodiless celestials of the dragons. In the eyes of outsiders, the dragons only had one clan leader. In fact, there were 2 patriarchs in the dragon clan. One of them was the patriarch of the outer clan and was usually at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The other patriarch was the patriarch of the inner clan and was in charge of all the bodiless celestials in the dragon clan. He was the true patriarch of the dragon clan. The leader of the inner clan of the dragons was usually the symbol of the strongest power of the dragons, and there was no exception in every generation. In this world, the strong were respected, and it was the same for dragons. Only the strongest loose immortals among the dragons would be able to obtain the support of a group of dragons and become the clan leader of the dragons. Di Chen actually kowtowed and begged for mercy in front of that Duanling Tian? What a disgrace to us dragons! How spineless! When news of this spread to the dragons, not only was the outer clan shocked, but even the inner clan was shocked as well. When the bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons learned about Di Chen's spineless behavior, they began to mock Di Chen. If Di Chen refuses to submit, he'll still have a good reputation. However, he's a coward and will go down in infamy. Di Chen is a 7-clawed golden dragon from the Imperial clan. How could he do such a thing? Not only is he a disgrace to himself, but he's also a disgrace to us dragons. If it were him, he would have just killed himself. How would he have the guts to come back? Shh. Keep your voices down. If the Supreme Elder hears you, you'll be in deep trouble. When the bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons mentioned Di Chen's father, the Supreme Elder of the inner clan of the dragons, they fell silent. There were only 3 Supreme Elders in the inner clan of the dragons. Apart from the clan leader of the inner clan of the dragons, the 3 Supreme Elders were the most powerful people in the inner clan. The Supreme Elders had a lot of power in the inner clan. They could even execute 1 or 2 bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons without reporting to the clan leader. Therefore, everyone became silent when they heard that Emperor Qin's father was one of the Supreme Elders of the 9 great sects. In the inner clan of the dragons, there was a large courtyard in a valley that was filled with birds chirping and flowers blooming. This was the residence of the 7-clawed divine dragon, Di Chen. At this moment, in the spacious room at the back of the courtyard, there was a person sitting cross-legged on the bed. The other person was standing in front of the bed, looking at the former with a gloomy expression. No one knew what he was thinking. The person sitting in front of the bed was none other than Di Chen. The person standing in front of the bed was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. His eyebrows were 60 to 70% similar to Emperor Qin's. In fact, the outline of his face seemed to have been carved from the same mold as Emperor Qin's. If the other members of the inner clan of the dragons were here, they would recognize the middle-aged man immediately. The middle-aged man was none other than Di Huan, the Supreme Elder of the inner clan of the dragons. He was also Di Chen's father. Father, I can't help it. Suddenly, Di Chen, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, opened his eyes. His face was pale as he looked at Di Huan, who was standing in front of the bed. He said unwillingly, "That obsession, I can't suppress it. Perhaps it's only when that Duan Lingtian is dead that my obsession can be removed." Di Chen's voice was low when he reached the end of his sentence. His eyes gleamed coldly. Duan Lingtian. A hint of killing intent flashed in Di Huan's eyes when he heard Di Chen's words. An aura swept out of his body, causing the furniture in the room to shake. "Father, kill him for me. I want him dead. I want him dead." Di Chen growled as he looked at Di Huan. Apart from anticipation, there was only desire in his eyes. He would not be able to rest until Duan Lingtian was dead. His obsession would not be removed. Di Huan's eyes flickered a few times before he said hesitantly, "Chen, I know you can't wait to kill that Duan Lingtian." However, a few years ago, the Patriarch had already asked Elder and to investigate if Duan Lingtian was a 9-clawed dragon warrior. Father really wants to kill him to vent the hatred in your heart. However, if I kill him, I'm afraid the Patriarch will. Di Huan did not finish his sentence since he knew his son understood what he meant. "Father!" Di Chen cried out anxiously when he heard Di Huan's words. "Half a year. I only have half a year left. My bodiless celestial tribulation will arrive in half a year. At that time, if my obsession is still there, I'll definitely die. I'll definitely die. Don't tell me. Father, are you going to watch as I perish from the bodiless celestial tribulation because of my obsession?" Di Chen's expression was filled with reluctance. However, a hint of hope flashed in his eyes as he continued to say, "The Patriarch has already confirmed that Duan Lingtian is a 9-clawed dragon warrior. As for the Patriarch, he hasn't confirmed whether Duan Lingtian is a 9-clawed dragon warrior or not. Regardless of whether he's a 9-clawed dragon warrior or not, as long as you kill him and destroy his corpse, the Patriarch won't do anything to you even if he finds out you're the one who killed him. Moreover, it's perfectly justifiable for you to kill him. Even the Patriarch has no reason to stop you." Di Chen continued to say. Di Huan's eyes lit up when he heard Di Chen's words. They were like 2 bright stars in the night sky. They shone brightly. Indeed, his son was right. Currently, their Patriarch was still unsure if Duan Lingtian was a 9-clawed dragon warrior or not. If he killed Duan Lingtian and destroyed his corpse, the dragons would not be able to do anything to him even if they found out. Moreover, he had a good reason to kill Duan Lingtian for his son. Those involved are often confused. Di Huan thought to himself. At this moment, Di Huan realized the reason he was hesitant was because of the patriarch's imposing aura that constantly affected him. Although he was a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial, one of the strongest powerhouses in the dragon clan, and his strength was not inferior to the other two supreme elders, he was nothing compared to the patriarch of the dragon clan. If the patriarch wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as stepping on an ant. It was precisely because of this that he subconsciously did not dare to have any thoughts of going against the patriarch. After all, if he were to kill Duan Ling Tian, it could be considered as going against the will of the patriarch to a certain extent. Chun-er, I'll leave the dragons and look for Duan Ling Tian to avenge you, Di Huan said as he looked at Di Chun affectionately. Father. Di Chin's eyes lit up immediately. Although he was happy, he did not forget to remind his father, Father, when Duan Ling Tian defeated me, his strength is comparable to a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, I'm not sure if his true strength is comparable to a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial or not. When Di Chun reached the end of his sentence, his expression turned grave. I've already thought of this, Di Huan said. For this reason, I plan to ask your Uncle Zhou and Uncle Qin to accompany me to look for Duan Ling Tian to avenge you. Unless Duan Ling Tian is as strong as Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, he'll definitely die. Moreover, it's impossible for him to possess the strength of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang from back then. You should know that according to the records left behind by our ancestors, Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was able to kill an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial and fight a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial when he was just an eminent celestial because he accidentally entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone and obtained a great fortuitous encounter. Di Huan finished speaking in one breath. Uncle Qin? Di Chin's eyes lit up when he heard Di Huan's words. He knew Uncle Qin was not an ordinary person. Uncle Qin was even stronger than his father. He was an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Ling Tian, I don't believe you won't die if an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial makes a move. Emperor Qin laughed like a madman for a while. His tone was full of joy. A month later, on a nameless snow-capped mountain in the northern region, the temporary estate of the Seven Absolutes sect welcomed back the successors of the Didymus progeny, the Sixth Absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, and Han Xuanai, the successor of the Red Dust progeny. It was supposed to be a good day for Duan Ling Tian to reunite with his old friends. However, Han Xuanai brought back two pieces of bad news one after another. Guli, the successor of the Kratos progeny, the Third Absolute, Yu Wu-ing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the Fourth Absolute. Chapter 2387. How could this be? How could this be? After the old prophet learned about the death of the current successors of the Third Absolute, the Kratos progeny, and the Fourth Absolute, the Dark Shadow progeny, from Han Xuanai, the old prophet's face turned pale. His eyes were lifeless as though he had lost his soul. Ever since he set up the Six Absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation, he could no longer predict the fates of the successors of the Six Absolutes. However, it did not cross his mind. The current successors of the Seven Absolute sect's First Absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, and the Dark Shadow progeny, had died one after another when the current successors of the Seven Absolute sect's First Absolute, the Seven Absolute sect's First Absolute, the Fog Rain progeny, and the Seven Absolute sect's Seven Absolute sect were about to gather. In other words, the gathering of the Seven Absolutes had turned into a huge joke. Senior Uncle Tianji and Master, she's dead as well. When Han Xuanai spoke again, two streams of tears fell from her red eyes uncontrollably. The moment the tears appeared, it was like a broken dam that could not be stopped. What? Upon hearing Han Xuanai's words, the elder of Heavenly Secrets' body trembled. His previous absent-mindedness was swept away, and he regained his senses. He looked sharply at Han Xuanai and asked in a deep voice, "What's going on? How did your master die?" The Oracle Man could not accept the fact that Guli and Yu Wu-ing had died. However, Han Xuanai's words were like adding oil to the fire. It made the Oracle Man even more uncomfortable. Who did this? Don't tell me it's Zhuangzi Buddhism and the people from Heaven Divination sect? The Oracle Man continued to ask. His originally cloudy eyes were not only shining brightly, but they were also filled with anger. It was as though flames were burning in his eyes. "I don't know," Han Shuanai said with a pained expression on her face. "Before Master died, apart from telling me that Gu Li and Yu Wuing had died, she also reminded me to be careful when I see Brother Ling Tian. It seems like the person who killed Master was looking for Brother Ling Tian. Because Master didn't cooperate, that person killed Master. Moreover, Master also said that the person who killed Gu Li and Yu Wuing was the same person. Master didn't know who that person's identity. However, she could tell that the person was a bodiless celestial, a very powerful bodiless celestial. When Han Shuanai finished Yu Wu's Yu and Yu Wuing, Yu Huan Yu and Yu Yu Shui accompanied by two simultaneous exclamations of surprise, two extremely beautiful women with graceful figures flew forward and helped Han Shuanai up from the left and right. These two women were none other than Ke and Feng Tianwu. Currently, not only were Ke and Feng Tianwu present, but even Duan Lingtian was present as well. From beginning to end, he had been quietly listening to Han Shuanai's words. Since he's a bodiless celestial, he should have nothing to do with Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. After hearing Han Shuanai's words, Duan Lingtian opened his mouth and spoke in an extremely low tone. Whether it was Zhuangzi Buddhism or the Heaven Divination sect, he knew there were no bodiless celestials. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's eyes were burning with rage as he said through gritted teeth, "Since they're here for me, it can only be them." Them? The Oracle man was stunned. "Master, do you think it's the dragon's men?" Chunny Ru, who was standing at the side, could not help but speculate when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Who else could it be other than them? Duan Lingtian sneered as the flames of anger in his eyes burned even brighter. Gu Li was his senior brother, and he had a close relationship with him. However, Duan Lingtian had been killed. Moreover, it was highly likely that he had something to do with Gu Li's death. As for Yu Wuing and the previous successor of the Seven Absolutes sect's Red Dust progeny, who was also Han Shuanai's master, although they did not have much interaction with him, they were still members of the Seven Absolutes sect. When Duan Lingtian thought about how he was the cause of their deaths, he could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Dragons? Upon hearing Channy Ru's words and Duan Lingtian's confirmation, everyone present, including the Oracle man, Ke, Feng Tianwu, Han Shuanai, and Nangong, widened their eyes in shock. Although not everyone knew the three great sects were supported by the dragons and the phoenixes, they knew that there were bodiless celestials among them. Among the dragons, there were bodiless celestials. Previously, Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, had knelt and kowtowed to the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. However, Di Chin's appearance was undoubtedly a declaration to the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. There were bodiless celestials among the dragons. Moreover, Di Chin's threat to Duan Lingtian in the Zoroastrianism's estate had spread throughout the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At that time, the world learned that there were bodiless celestials among the dragons. There were 7 tribulation bodiless celestials among the dragons. You're saying the people who killed Xuanai's master, Gu Li, and Yu Wuing are from the dragons? The people from the dragons did that because of Di Chun and wanted to look for you? However, the 3 of them refused to cooperate and were killed? Although the Oracle man's cultivation base was nothing compared to the others, his experience was not something the others could compare to. It was easy for him to figure out many things from Duan Lingtian's words. I can't be completely sure, but I'm more than 90% sure that Emperor Chen is involved in the deaths of those 3 people, Duan Lingtian said coldly. The 3 of them were either killed by Di Chen or Di Chen's father. The latter is more likely. After all, that Emperor Chen won't dare to swagger out and look for me since he knows that he's no match for me. Although Duan Lingtian was merely making a guess, his words left no room for doubt. Big brother Lingtian. After hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Han Shuanai looked at Duan Lingtian with a pained expression. Her eyes were filled with hope as if she was grasping at a life-saving straw. You have to avenge my master. You have to avenge my master. At this moment, Han Shuanai was completely covered in tears. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel his heart ache when he saw this. Thinking back to when they first met, Han Shuanai was still a carefree young girl. But now, He was suffering the pain of losing his parents. For a moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Dragons, I, Duan Lingtian, will remember this. Duan Lingtian had made up his mind to avenge Gu Li and his two companions after they had died in the hands of the dragons. It was not only because he was friends with one of them, but it was also because he was the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, and the three of them were members of the Seven Absolute Sect. As the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, naturally, he could not let his sect members die in vain. Even if the dragons were a tiger's den, he had to give it a try. Although he wanted to avenge Gu Li and his two companions, he could not wait to kill the dragons. However, he knew this was not the case. If he were to kill the dragons, it would be tantamount to committing suicide. Put aside Di Chen's father, a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial, he was no match for him. However, there was a possibility that there was an even more powerful existence in the dragon race apart from Emperor Chen's father, for example, an eight-tribulation bodiless celestial. Junior Uncle Prophet. Duan Lingtian looked at the Oracle Man and said in a deep voice, I want to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone now. Junior Uncle Prophet, please give me the key to open the Sword Saint's secret zone. The Sword Saint's secret zone was, without a doubt, his only chance to kill the dragons and avenge Gu Li and his two companions. Although he had comprehended the fifth stage of the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the heart and sword amalgamation, and his strength was comparable to a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial, it was only comparable to a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial. It was extremely difficult to kill a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, there might be eight-tribulation bodiless celestials among the dragons who were even stronger than seven-tribulation bodiless celestials. According to the Oracle Man, the Sword Saint's secret zone was a secret zone. As long as he entered the Sword Saint's secret zone and obtained the legacy left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, the founding ancestor of the Seven Absolute Sect, there was a high chance he would be able to catch up to Senior Feng Qingyang's strength. In the past, Senior Feng Qingyang was able to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial. Senior Feng Qingyang doesn't know any assist-type divine abilities like the elementary devouring tactic. Even Junior Uncle Prophet didn't expect me to be as strong as a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial after comprehending the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword. In other words, even if I'm weaker than Senior Feng Qingyang after obtaining the legacy left behind by Feng Qingyang, I'll still be stronger than Senior Feng Qingyang if I use the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic. At that time, it won't be impossible for me to kill a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial. This was the thought that had appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind after he had spoken to the Oracle Man. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was eager to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. In his opinion, as long as his luck wasn't bad after he entered the Sword Saint's secret zone, it wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat the Dragon Clan when he came out. Let's wait for another 3 months. If that girl doesn't return in 3 months, we won't wait for her anymore. At that time, I'll give you the key, and the few of you will enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. The Oracle Man said after a moment of silence when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Chapter 2388. Gu Li, the successor of the Kratos progeny, the third absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, has died. Yu Wuing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect, has died. When these two pieces of news spread out in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land was in an uproar again. It was as though an earth-shattering earthquake had occurred. Heavens! There are only 8 successors in the current generation of the Seven Absolute Sect, and 2 of them have died? Who did this? Aren't they afraid of Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, seeking revenge? Could it be someone from the 3 great sects? It's possible. Since Zoroastrianism has bodiless celestials, it's impossible that the Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect don't have any. Moreover, the dragons who are slightly weaker than the 3 great sects have 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. If the 3 great sects have 7 tribulation bodiless celestials or stronger, they might not be afraid of Duan Lingtian. Similar discussions could be heard everywhere in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, none of the people who spread such rumors were bodiless celestials. This was because only bodiless celestials knew that the three great sects of the Nine Dragons sect were extremely powerful. The three great sects were not a match for the dragons. Moreover, there were no bodiless celestials in the three great sections. As for the four tribulation bodiless celestial, Li Bing, who had appeared in the Zoroastrianism previously, he was merely a bodiless celestial who had returned to the Zoroastrianism to flaunt his prowess. Unfortunately, Li Bing had failed and was killed by Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. This matter must have been done by someone from the Dragon Clan. A month ago, I heard that Duan Lingtian forced Di Chun, a five tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kneel and kowtow. I knew that Duan Lingtian and the entire Seven Absolute sect would be in trouble. Dragons are a race that values their dignity more than anything else. My thoughts back then were similar to yours. Now, the facts have undoubtedly verified our thoughts. The Seven Absolutes sect is truly unlucky. The Seven Absolutes sect has lost the successors of three Absolutes and four Absolutes in one go. This is truly a heavy blow. Right now, Duan Lingtian, the leader of the Seven Absolutes sect, must be mad with rage. So what if I'm mad? Unless he has the strength to suppress all the dragons. Otherwise, he can't do anything. Suppressing all the dragons is easier said than done. It's said that the clan leader of the dragon's inner clan might still be alive. If he's still alive, I'm afraid nobody in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land would be a match for him, right? These were the opinions of the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. They knew much more than ordinary people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Heaven Divination Sect. The successors of the third and fourth absolutes of the Seven Absolute sect are all dead. Moreover, many people are suspecting that the Heaven Divination sect is the culprit. Emo Xian, the great oracle of Heaven Divination sect, was confused when he heard the rumors. After a moment of confusion, a wave of panic and fear washed over him. Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, doesn't really think that someone from the Heaven Divination sect killed his disciples, right? When Emo Xian thought of this, there was only fear in his heart. The Zhuangzi Buddhism sect. Our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is stronger than the dragons? Seven tribulation bodiless celestials? Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, was so angry that he almost threw up blood when he heard the rumors. If there's a bodiless celestial in our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, how could I not know about it? As for the dragons, I used to think that our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is stronger than them. Now, even if they send out a three-tribulation bodiless celestial to suppress our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect would have no choice but to admit defeat. Lang Qianjin was so angry that he almost threw up blood. He was speechless and felt wronged. However, Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, wouldn't be so foolish as to believe the rumors and think that someone from the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect killed Gu Li and Yu Wuing. Lang Qianjin could not help but feel anxious when he thought of this. Soon after, Emo Xian, the great oracle of Heaven Divination sect, and Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, announced to the entire Dao Martial Saint Land in unison. From today onward, the Heaven Divination sect will no longer be enemies with the Seven Absolute sect. People from the Heaven Divination sect will have to take a detour when they encounter people from the Seven Absolutes sect. From today onward, the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is willing to put aside the enmity between us and the Seven Absolute sect. As long as the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, Duan Lingtian, says the word, the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is willing to offer a large number of quasi-celestial grade saint stones as compensation. When the two great sects made such a statement, it was only natural that it shocked everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Could it be that our previous speculation was wrong? The deaths of Gu Li and Yu Wuing have nothing to do with the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect? If it has nothing to do with the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect, could it be Zoroastrianism? It's impossible for Zoroastrianism sect to do that. Although the Zoroastrianism sect leader, Gonru Yin, left the Zoroastrianism sect, Gonru Yin still hasn't removed the rule of not being enemies with the Seven Absolute sect. In other words, the deaths of Gu Li and Yu Wuing have nothing to do with Zoroastrianism? If that's the case, there's only one possibility left. Gu Li and Yu Wuing were killed by the dragons. As for the dragon's motive, it's most likely related to the incident where Di Chun, the five tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, was humiliated by Duan Ling Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. That should be the case. As the Heaven Divination sect and the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect made their statements, the attention of the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland shifted to the dragons. If the deaths of the two successors of the Seven Absolutes sect had nothing to do with the three great sects, it could only mean that the dragons had something to do with it. Only the dragons had the motive to do that. They're not stupid. They actually suspected the dragons. The Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect have admitted defeat in front of the Seven Absolute sect. If they still can't figure out that the dragons are the culprits, they're really stupid. Many bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland shared similar sentiments when they began to suspect the dragons for the deaths of the two successors of the Seven Absolute sect. In the eastern region, in the 100,000 mountains, the dragon's estate, in the inner clan. Father, how did things get out of hand? I'm afraid Lord Patriarch has already guessed that the deaths of the successors of the third and fourth absolutes of the Seven Absolutes sect have something to do with us. If he intervenes, how are we going to kill Duan Lingtian? Dichen looked at his father worriedly. He was not worried that the Patriarch would come looking for trouble with his father over the deaths of the two successors of the Seven Absolute sect. No matter what, his father was the supreme elder of the Dragon Clan. His status was lofty. He was worried that the Patriarch would intervene when he found out they were going to kill Duan Lingtian. He would order them not to kill Duan Lingtian before he found out if Duan Lingtian was a nine-clawed dragon warrior. If the Patriarch gave such an order, then no matter how bold the father and son duo were, they would not dare to act rashly against Duan Lingtian. If his father dared to disobey the Patriarch's order, the Patriarch would definitely be enraged. At that time, the Patriarch would most likely kill his father out of consideration for his own dignity. I didn't expect the two successors of the Seven Absolutes sect to be so stubborn. They would rather die than tell me where Duan Lingtian is. Even the previous successor of the Red Dust progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, would rather die than submit. At this moment, even Di Chen's father, Di Huan, could not help but frown. He felt that things were getting out of hand. At the same time, he regretted killing the two successors of the Seven Absolutes sect in a fit of anger. At that time, he had only wanted to find out where Duan Lingtian was. However, the two successors of the Seven Absolutes sect refused to obey him. Naturally, he had killed them out of anger. After all, in the eyes of a Seven Tribulation bodiless celestial like him, the two successors of the Seven Absolutes sect were as insignificant as ants. He did not expect this matter to escalate to such an extent that it might even alert the Patriarch of the Dragons. While Di Huan was frowning, he seemed to have sensed something. He abruptly lifted his hand and took out a jade slip. At the same time, an invisible ray of light flew over from afar and merged into the jade strip. It caused the jade strip to flicker and emit a rich light. Soon after, the light gradually withdrew and disappeared. Crack! Di Huan immediately crushed the jade token in his hand. Almost at the same time as Di Huan crushed the jade slip, a voice resounded in the air and clearly entered their ears. Supreme Elder, the Patriarch of the Dragons was killed by the current successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, with the heaven-defying art of cursing. Currently, the entire clan is in chaos. When Di Huan and Di Chen heard this, they were stunned for a moment. After a while, they regained their senses. Their expressions changed drastically. How dare the Seven Absolute sect? How dare they kill the Patriarch of the Dragons? Isn't the Seven Absolutes sect afraid of being annihilated by the dragons? The Patriarch that Di Huan and Di Chen had mentioned earlier was, naturally, the Patriarch of the Outer Clan. The patriarch of a foreign clan was only the spokesperson of the dragon clan. Since he was not even an eminent celestial, the dragon clan would not even mention him. Even the patriarch of the outer clan would have to respectfully address the patriarch of the outer clan. However, when the patriarch of the outer clan was killed, the father and son were furious. Although the cultivation level of the leader of the foreign clan was nothing in the eyes of the dragon clan, however, he was the spokesperson of the entire dragon clan to the outside world. Chapter 2389. The Patriarch of the Dragons is dead? The Patriarch of the Dragons was killed by the current successor of the Prophet Progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. In the past, the death of the Patriarch of the Dragons would not have caused much of a commotion. However, the current dragons were not the same as before. This was because the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland knew that the three sects were more powerful than the current dragons. This was because there were not only bodiless celestials among the dragons, but there were also the strongest bodiless celestials among the dragons. 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials. The current 7 Absolute sect was so powerful that even the 3 great sects had to bow down to them. However, the dragons were not afraid of the 7 Absolutes sect at all. This could be seen from the fact that the dragons had killed 2 of the current successors of the 7 Absolute sect. The people from the 7 Absolute sect are too bold. That's the patriarch of the dragons. She actually killed him with a curse. That's not right. There are 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials among the dragons. Their patriarch should be quite strong. How could he be killed by the current successor of the Prophet Progeny, the second absolute of the 7 Absolute sect? I think something is amiss as well. Is it possible that the patriarch of the dragons isn't a bodiless celestial? Many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland were shocked by the news of the patriarch of the dragons being killed. However, not long after they voiced their doubts, they found out the answer to their questions. The answer came from the dragons. The patriarch of the dragons is the patriarch of the outer clan. He's the representative of the dragons. His cultivation base is only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Apart from the patriarch of the outer clan, there's also the patriarch of the inner clan. The patriarch of the inner clan is the strongest person among the dragons. He's so strong that even Di Chin's father, a 7 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial, can't compare to him. When the news spread like wildfire in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, it caused an uproar in the upper province. There were actually 2 patriarchs among the dragons? The patriarch of the dragon clan was only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? How could it be possible that the patriarch of the dragon clan was only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Within the dragon clan, there was another clan leader. He was the inner clan leader. Does this mean the inner clan patriarch of the dragons is at least an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial? Heavens! The dragon clan actually had an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. Apart from 9 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials, 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials were the strongest in the mundane realms. In the history of the Dao Martial Saintland, 9 Tribulation Bodiless Celestials were extremely rare. That's right. A 9 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial represents the glory of an era. Therefore, it's basically impossible for a 9 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial to exist in our era. Although most people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland did not think there was a 9 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial in this era, they were still shocked when they learned the inner clan patriarch of the dragons was an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial. While the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland were still shocked by the fact that there was an 8 Tribulation Bodiless Celestial among the dragons, another announcement was made among the dragons. Those who provide the whereabouts of the members of the 7 Absolutes sect to the dragons will be handsomely rewarded by the dragons. From today onward, the dragons will fight the 7 Absolutes sect to the death. When the announcement made by the dragon clan spread out in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland, it caused a huge commotion. The dragons are furious. At this moment, everyone realized the dragons were furious. The dragons were furious. The current successor of the Prophet Progeny, the second absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, had killed the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan. It's understandable. Although the cultivation base of the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan is nothing compared to the dragons, he's still the representative of the dragons. Killing him is equivalent to slapping the Seven Absolutes sect in the face. That's right. The death of the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan is undoubtedly a humiliation to the dragons. This is the only way for the dragons to regain their dignity. Only by annihilating the Seven Absolutes sect will the dragons be able to wash away their humiliation. The Seven Absolutes sect is doomed. Many people sighed. They thought the Seven Absolutes sect was doomed. However, there were some people who did not think so. The Seven Absolute sect is doomed? I don't think so. Don't forget that the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, Duan Lingtian, is not someone to be trifled with. That's right. Up until now, Duan Lingtian has only displayed strength comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. Who knows if he has unleashed his full strength or not? After all, Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was able to kill an 8th tribulation bodiless celestial, even though he was only an eminent celestial. Duan Lingtian is the successor of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. Although he's not as strong as Feng Qingyang, I'm afraid he's not too far off. I'm afraid there are only a handful of dragons who can defeat him. These people felt that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was not as simple as it seemed when he defeated Di Chun, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Dragon's clan, in the eastern region, at the Dragon's residence in the 100,000 mountains. Father, Lord Patriarch has yet to come out of his closed-door cultivation. You've even announced that the dragons will fight to the death with the Seven Absolute sect and spread the news to the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland. Will the Patriarch blame you when he comes out of his closed-door cultivation? Di Qin asked worriedly as he looked at Di Huan. Chun, don't worry. Di Huan smiled as he shook his head. Then, his eyes narrowed as he said, even if the Patriarch comes out of his closed-door cultivation and learns about this, he won't let the Seven Absolute sect go. Moreover, I've obtained Elder Shang's permission to issue this order. Lord Patriarch has said that as long as 2 of the 3 Supreme Elders agree, they can deal with the dragons while he's in closed-door cultivation. For this reason, I'm only acting according to Lord Patriarch's orders. A hint of cunning flashed in Di Huan's eyes when he finished speaking. Your wise father. Di Qin's eyes lit up when he heard Di Huan's words. The worry on his face disappeared and was replaced by a smile. So, to a certain extent, we should thank the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect? If it weren't for her, the dragons wouldn't have to go against the Seven Absolute sect. The smile on Di Qin's face grew wider and wider as he spoke. Indeed, we should thank that girl. However, that girl is capable of using the heaven-defying art of cursing to kill the Patriarch of the Dragons. She's not easy to deal with. After all, the Patriarch of the Dragons is not an ordinary powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. His comprehension of heaven and earth is close to reaching its limit. He's only a step away from triggering the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. Di Huan nodded. So what? She's just a little girl who hasn't even become an eminent celestial. Di Qin said disdainfully. So what if she's an eminent celestial? Let alone a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. She might not even be able to defeat an ordinary 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. There's only one successor of the Fog Rain progeny in the Seven Absolute sect. When Di Chun reached the end of his sentence, he could not help but recall the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, Duan Lingtian. His eyes could not help but widen in rage. Flames of anger burned in the depths of his eyes. It was as though they were capable of incinerating everything. Duan Lingtian had humiliated him so much that he did not dare to leave his cultivation place. If he left now, the other members of the dragons would definitely look at him strangely. Earlier, when he had kowtowed to Duan Lingtian and begged for mercy, not only had he humiliated himself, but even the members of the dragons felt that he had humiliated the dragons. Previously, as the only son of Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons, although he could not summon the wind and rain, there were not many dragons who dared to offend him. However, He had been reduced to a state where he did not even dare to leave his cultivation place. This is all because of Duan Lingtian. It's all because of him. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Emperor Qin's eyes blazed with anger. The obsession in his heart had become increasingly intense. He couldn't let go of it. At this moment, Di Huan's expression changed when he noticed Di Qin's strange behavior. When he was certain Di Qin's obsession had grown so strong that it was almost impossible for him to let go, his eyes burned with hatred. There are only 3 months left. Er's bodiless celestial tribulation will come in 3 months. I must find Duan Lingtian and kill him in front of Er within these 3 months. Otherwise, Er's bodiless celestial tribulation is going to be a disaster. With this thought in mind, Di Huan left the dragons without saying goodbye to Di Qian. He could feel the urgency of the situation. After 2 months, Duan Lingtian and the others finally welcomed the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the 7 absolute sect. This was also Duan Lingtian's first time meeting the successor of the prophet progeny. The successor of the prophet progeny was a woman dressed in white. She had an extraordinary aura. As soon as she appeared, it seemed as though everything around her paled in comparison. Her waist-length hair cascaded down her back, like a waterfall cascading down 9 straight waterfalls. Although her face was covered by a white veil, it seemed as though her face was covered by a white veil. However, looking at the other half of her face that was flawless and seemed to have been carefully sculpted, it was not difficult to imagine that under the white veil, she was definitely not inferior to Kuer and Tian Wu's peerless beauty. She stood there and did not move deliberately, but she was like an ice goddess. She invisibly emitted waves of cold aura, causing the temperature of the surrounding air to seem to drop a few degrees. "Master, I'm back." The moment the white-clothed lady with a veil appeared, she looked at Elder Tianji and spoke in an ethereal and cold voice. Chapter 2390. It's good that you're back. A smile appeared on the oracle man's face when he saw his direct disciple had returned safely. He sighed in relief inwardly. He had learned about what his direct disciple had done in the dragons. While the actions of his personal disciple were indeed satisfying, he was also well aware of how dangerous it was. After all, the dragons were one of the 2 most powerful clans in the Dao Martial Saint Land. For this reason, he was overjoyed when he saw his direct disciple had returned safely. The old prophet was about to introduce Duan Lingtian, the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect, to his direct disciple when he was interrupted by Duan Lingtian, the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Duan Lingtian, the oracle man's direct disciple and the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the 7 absolute sect, looked at Duan Lingtian intently. She had called out Duan Lingtian's name. It was obvious she had recognized him. What's going on? However, Duan Lingtian did not respond to Muiyi's greeting since he was not paying attention to her at all. When Muiyi had first appeared, he had sensed a familiar aura from her. Even though this aura was very faint, he could still clearly sense it. However, he could not recall where he had come into contact with this aura. Apart from her own aura, there seemed to be 8 other auras on the successor of the prophet progeny. Including the aura I've come into contact with, there are 9 different auras on her. As an eminent celestial, although Duan Lingtian's soul was not as strong as a bodiless celestial, it was much stronger than the successor of the prophet progeny. Therefore, he extended his divine consciousness and easily sensed the 10 auras on the successor of the prophet progeny. Among the 10 auras, the other 9 auras were intertwined with the strongest aura. It was the successor of the prophet progeny's aura. The condition of her body should be related to the cultivation method she cultivates. Duan Lingtian speculated inwardly. Brother Lingtian, senior sister Yi is greeting you. Hanshu and I walked up to Duan Lingtian and tugged on his sleeve. She reminded Duan Lingtian. When she looked at the successor of the prophet progeny, Mu-Yi, a hint of admiration could be seen in her eyes. It was as though she regarded Mu-Yi as her idol. With Hanshu and I's reminder, Duan Lingtian regained his senses. He looked at Mu-Yi and said, I'm sorry, junior sister Yi. I sensed a familiar aura on you. Before Mu Yi had returned, Duan Lingtian had heard the oracle man mention her more than once. He knew she was a rare heaven-defying Tao cultivator in the prophet progeny. She was so powerful that she was second only to him among the successors of the Seven Absolutes sects. Seven Absolutes. Apart from that, he had also heard about how Mu Yi had cursed the patriarch of the dragons to death. For this reason, he had a good impression of Mu Yi before he met her. Then, do you remember where you came into contact with that aura? Mu Yi was not displeased by Duan Lingtian's rudeness. Instead, she asked this question. Her question confused Duan Lingtian. Where did he come into contact with that aura? Gasp. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and started to recall carefully. After recalling for a while, he really recalled it. Clarity City, Qiumu Qing. Clarity City was a city at the edge of the western region. Qiumu Qing was the young miss of the Qiu clan in Clarity City. Previously, before he went to Sin City in the central region, he had stayed in Clarity City for a few days. During those few days, he had gotten to know Qiumu Qing and helped her solve some problems. When Duan Ling Tian left Clarity City, he discovered Qiumu Qing seemed to have feelings for him. However, in his eyes, Qiumu Qing was only a passerby in his life. Perhaps he would not have the chance to meet her again. He did not expect he would sense Qiumu Qing's aura on Mu Yi, the successor of the prophet progeny. Moreover, it reminded him of what had happened in Clarity City. I've come into contact with that aura on a woman before. Her name is Qiumu Qing, and she's from a city called Clarity City at the edge of the western region. Duan Lingtian replied when he saw Mu Yi's serious expression. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he discovered Mu Yi's expression had changed. A hint of relief could be seen in Mu Yi's eyes. This made him even more puzzled. Why would there be such a change in Mu Yi's expression? She'll be very happy if she knows you still remember her. Mu Yi sighed. Mu Yi sighed faintly as she opened her mouth once again. Soon after, the invisible icy aura from her body was withdrawn. What do you mean? Upon hearing Mu Yi's words, Duan Lingtian could tell something was amiss. He asked solemnly, what happened to her? Although Qiumu Qing was only a passerby in his life, Duan Lingtian did not know her well. However, after spending a few days with Qiumu Qing, to a certain extent, he had considered her a friend. For this reason, he could not help but feel worried when he heard Mu Yi sighing when she mentioned Qiumu Qing. He knew something must have happened to Qiumu Qing. Qiumu Qing and the people around her were persecuted by a pervert on their way to Zoroastrianism. Mu Yi said slowly, especially her when she died, so much so that after her death, the scattered remnants of her soul were completely infected by the evil aura and gathered together once again, lingering for 3 days and 3 nights without dispersing. Mu Yi said slowly. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened when he heard Mu Yi's words. Who did it? Do you know who did it? Duan Lingtian's voice was low and hoarse when he spoke again. A young man, Mu Yi sighed. A hint of killing intent flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes when he heard Mu Yi's words. A cold aura surged out of his body. It was even colder than Mu Yi's. That person is stronger than you? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at Mu Yi and withdrew the cold aura he was emitting. Duan Lingtian, naturally, thought Mu Yi was present when Qiumu Qing was killed. She might have even watched as Qiumu Qing was killed. He was certain Mu Yi did not help Qiumu Qing because that person was stronger than Mu Yi. Otherwise, Mu Yi would not have helped Qiumu Qing. In his opinion, since Mu Yi was chosen by the Oracle Man to be his successor, she would not leave Qiumu Qing in the lurch. I only learned about this after I absorbed Qiumu Qing's soul fragment that was on the verge of dissipating after 3 days and 3 nights. I also saw some of her fragmented memories, Mu Yi sighed. Absorb soul fragments? Duan Lingtian frowned. That's a necessary process for a successor of the prophet progeny to become a heaven-defying Tao cultivator. The Oracle Man explained to Duan Lingtian, to become a heaven-defying Tao cultivator, apart from the requirement of innate talent, the successor of the prophet progeny has to find and absorb 9 ruthless soul fragments. That's the only way one can master the heaven-defying art of cursing and become a heaven-defying Tao cultivator. After the elder of Tianji explained everything in one breath, he added, of course, the owners of those violent remnant souls cannot be harmed by the successor of Tianji when they were alive, because if their owners were harmed by the successor of Tianji, they would subconsciously resist the successor of Tianji absorbing them. I see. Duan Lingtian finally understood after listening to the Oracle Man's explanation. Earlier, when he just found out about the existence of heaven-defying Tao cultivators, he'd been surprised by the heaven-defying curse that they possessed. It was simply a heaven-defying ability to kill, and it caused others to feel horrified just from hearing about it. At that time, he had wondered how such a heaven-defying technique could exist in this world. He did not expect it would be so difficult to become a heaven-defying Tao cultivator. Apart from the requirement of innate talent, one had to find 9 ruthless soul fragments and absorb them. Do you remember what that person looked like? Duan Lingtian looked at Mu Yi again. His eyes were burning with rage as though they were on fire. Whoosh! As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, Mu Yi raised her hand and took out a portrait. This is the portrait I drew when I saw her memories. All these years, I've been looking for this person, but I haven't been able to find any clues. The owners of the 9 ruthless soul fragments that Mu Yi had absorbed had all been persecuted by someone. She had killed the person who had caused the deaths of 8 of them. The only person she had not been able to find was the person who had persecuted Xiao Mu Qing. Duan Lingtian looked at the portrait in Mu Yi's hand. The portrait depicted a young man with a medium build and a devilish expression. It's him. While Duan Lingtian was studying the young man in the portrait with a frown on his face, a cry of surprise rang in his ears again. Everyone, including Duan Lingtian, turned to look at the person who had exclaimed in surprise. This person was none other than Chenny Ru, the 4 tribulation bodiless celestial standing behind Duan Lingtian. Sandao, you know him? Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as he looked at Chenny Ru. His voice was tinged with excitement. When Duan Lingtian heard Mu Yi had not been able to find any clues about the person in the portrait, he had thought it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chapter 2391. Yes, Master. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's question, Chenny Ru did not dare to be negligent. Who's he? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as his eyes flashed coldly. His name is Ding Yijian. He's a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial like me. Chenny Ru said, that person's biggest hobby is women. As long as he sees a beautiful woman, he will want to possess her. 30 years ago, I couldn't stand his behavior, so I fought with him. After exchanging a few blows, there is no clear victor. They are evenly matched. So he's a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. Mu Yi finally understood Chenny Ru's words. No wonder I couldn't find anything about him. She finally understood why she could not find anything about the person who killed Xiao Mu Qing, even with the help of the 7 Absolutes Sect's Red Dust Progenies Information Network. As it turned out, the culprit was a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. It was only natural that she could not find anything about a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial with the help of the Red Dust Progenies Information Network. After all, the Red Dust Progenies Information Network did not extend to the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Tao Martial Saint Land. 4 tribulation bodiless celestial? Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly as he asked, do you know where he usually stays? Based on my calculations, it's less than 100 years until the next bodiless celestial tribulation. If there's no accident, he should be in his cultivation place waiting for the next bodiless celestial tribulation. Chenny Ru said, and his place of cultivation is in the northern region. Take me there. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that Ding Yijian cultivated in the northern region. After all, he had heard from Chenny Ru that most of the reclusive powerhouses, including bodiless celestials, lived in seclusion in the northern region. Even Niewu Tian, the powerhouse ranked first on the Supreme Saint ranking, had lived in seclusion in the northern region before he ascended. Yes, Master. Chenny Ru replied respectfully. At the same time, Duan Lingtian looked at the Oracle Man and said, Junior Uncle Prophet, I'd like to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone after I avenge my friend. Duan Ling Tian had made an agreement with the Oracle Man. As long as Mu Yi, the direct disciple of the old prophet and the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the seven absolutes sect, returned, she would be able to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. However, it seemed like they had no choice but to postpone their plan. Duan Ling, the old prophet, could understand Duan Ling Tian's feelings, so he nodded in agreement. Duan Ling Tian bade farewell to Ku Feng Tian Wu, and the others before he led Chinny Ru away from the snow-capped mountain. They made their way north to the glaciers in the northern region. The northern region was covered in snow all year round. In the north of the northern region, the entire land had turned into a glacier. Looking from afar, it was crystal clear. It set off the snow that was falling from the sky, forming a perfect world of ice and snow. There are quite a lot of people. Under Chinny Ru's guidance, Duan Lingtian saw many people as they made their way north. However, most of them were only at the Saint Celestial stage. Up until now, I found more than a dozen people at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage or above. It's a good thing they haven't appeared yet. Otherwise, the Supreme Saint ranking would have changed again. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Duan Lingtian was also aware that ever since bodiless celestials were exposed, the Supreme Saint ranking had lost its authority in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. There were fewer and fewer people who talked about it. Even when people talked about it, they would criticize it or suggest it was a ranking of the bodiless celestials in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Master, this is one of the places where bodiless celestials gather in the northern region. It did not take long before Chinny Ru's voice rang in Duan Ling Tian's ears. He immediately regained his senses and looked ahead. With just a glance, Duan Ling Tian saw many spacious mansions in the middle of the ice and snow. Above these mansions, there seemed to be a layer of transparent light barrier that completely blocked out the snow that was falling from the sky. Ding Yijian's cultivation place is here. Duan Ling Tian was shocked when he heard Chinny Ru's voice again. He swept his gaze across the mansions in front of him. Where's his cultivation place? It's here. Chinny Ru said to Duan Ling Tian as he hovered above a spacious mansion. He looked down at the mansion below him. See if he's here, Duan Ling Tian said with a glint in his eyes. Currently, his divine consciousness was only at the level of an eminent celestial. It was impossible for him to probe a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. He might be able to detect Ding Yijian's presence, but if Ding Yijian attacked him with his divine consciousness, his soul would definitely be injured. For this reason, Duan Lingtian asked Chinny Ru to do it for him.
Yes.
Chinny Ru replied respectfully as he extended his divine consciousness to check if Ding Yijian, the four-tribulation bodiless celestial, was in the mansion. Elementary devouring tactic. While Chinny Ru was probing Ding Yijian's cultivation place with his divine consciousness, Duan Lingtian did not remain idle. He cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and recklessly devoured the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings. In just a blink of an eye, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings was completely devoured by Duan Lingtian. What's going on? Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly disappear? What's going on? Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly become so thin? Damn it! What's going on? With Duan Lingtian as the center, the secluded powerhouses who were cultivating in the surroundings, including the place where the bodiless celestials were gathered, were all interrupted. In the blink of an eye, the heaven and earth spirit chi suddenly disappeared and even became extremely thin. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to them who were cultivating. At the same time, they were puzzled. Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly disappear? Just as the group of hermit experts were interrupted, Chinny Ru's consciousness, which had enveloped the mansion beneath his feet, also received a response. Master, Ding Yijian is in his cultivation place. At the same time, Chinny Ru greeted Duan Lingtian. Chinny Ru. The figure shot out of the mansion and shot up into the sky like a rocket. In just a blink of an eye, the figure appeared near Duan Lingtian and Chinny Ru. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when the figure in front of him completely revealed himself. Killing intent began to brew in his eyes, as though it was about to burst out at any moment. This was because the person who had appeared before him was none other than the young man in the portrait Mu Yi had taken out. He was the one who had killed Xiaomu Qing. The expression of the four-tribulation bodiless celestial, Ding Yijian, changed drastically when he saw Chunyi Ru standing behind the purple-clad young man who had used his divine consciousness to probe him earlier. This was because he had already guessed the purple-clad young man's identity. Currently, it was no longer a secret that Chunyi Ru, a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, had acknowledged a powerful master. Even Duanling Tian had heard about it a long time ago. Chunyi Ru's master was Duanling Tian, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect. Duanling Tian's name had spread in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland due to the incident where he had forced Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kowtow and beg for mercy. Rumor had it that Duanling Tian's strength was comparable to a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. That was how he had forced Di Chun to kowtow and beg for mercy. Your sect leader, Duan? For this reason, when Ding Yijian guessed the purple-clad young man's identity in front of Chunyi Ru, the anger he felt towards Chunyi Ru disappeared completely. Only anxiety and uneasiness remained. What a joke. Duanling Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, had strength comparable to a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. Many people even said that Duanling Tian's strength was not just comparable to a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. Even Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, was forced to kowtow and beg for mercy by Duanling Tian, let alone a mere four-tribulation bodiless celestial like him. Don't tell me Duanling Tian is here to avenge Chunyi Ru because of the conflict I had with him 30 years ago? In fact, even if Duanling Tian ignored Ding Yijian's question, Ding Yijian had more or less confirmed Duanling Tian's identity. Due to this reason, his heart was filled with anxiety. Sect leader Duan. When Ding Yijian saw Duanling Tian looking at him coldly and ignoring him, he could not help but say, "Back then, Chunyi Ru and I only had a small conflict. I'm willing to apologize to him and promise to avoid him the next time I see him." At this moment, Ding Yijian lowered his pride as a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Naturally, all of this was due to Duanling Tian's strength that had completely shocked him. It's Chunyi Ru. At the same time, many bodiless celestials who had left their places of cultivation because the heaven and earth spirit energy in the air noticed Chunyi Ru, who was standing opposite Ding Yijian. Most of the bodiless celestials recognized Chunyi Ru, since he had cultivated here for a period of time. Chunyi Ru is back. Is the purple-clad young man standing in front of Chunyi Ru Duanling Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect? When the bodiless celestials recognized Chunyi Ru, they saw him standing respectfully in front of a purple-clad young man. Chapter 2392. During this period of time, Duanling Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, was the most popular person in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland. Whether it was ordinary celestials or bodiless celestials, people were talking about him every day. For this reason, it was not difficult for the bodiless celestials to recognize Duanling Tian after they recognized Chunyi Ru. Why is Duanling Tian here? Based on his actions, it seems like he came with Chunyi Ru to look for Ding Yijian. As soon as he arrived, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings became thinner. Could the change in the heaven and earth spirit energy have something to do with him? I don't know. A group of bodiless celestials stood in the distance and discussed among themselves as they looked at Duanling Tian. However, they did not dare to approach Duanling Tian. Among them, the strongest person was a five-tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, they did not dare to act recklessly in front of Duanling Tian. After all, Duanling Tian was someone who could even force Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kneel and kowtow as he begged for mercy. The few five-tribulation bodiless celestials among them knew they would not stand a chance against Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Therefore, they could only keep a low profile in front of Di Chun. How could they, who were inferior to Di Chun, dare to act recklessly in front of Duanling Tian? Humph! Duanling Tian snorted coldly under the watchful eyes of the others. In just a blink of an eye, Duanling Tian's killing intent surged out of his body. It was as though he had transformed into a peerless god of slaughter. His imposing aura was enough to pressure the bodiless celestials present on the scene. Bang! Duan Lingtian took a step forward and stomped his foot on the void. The void immediately cracked open, and dense crisscrossing cracks spread out like a spider web in the sky. When Duan Lingtian stepped forward, Ding Yijian was so shocked that his heart sank. Immediately, he lowered his head towards Duan Lingtian in shock and fear. Other than fear on his face, there was only reverence. Right now, Ding Yijian only had one thought in his mind. He hoped that Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, would overlook the conflict between him and Chinny Ru in the past. Moreover, he and Chinny Ru didn't suffer any losses in the conflict back then. In his opinion, it was a small matter. Since he had admitted defeat, Duan Lingtian, as the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, would not do anything to him. However, Ding Yijian would never have thought that he would be so lucky. Duan Lingtian did not come to avenge Chinny Ru. Instead, he came to avenge one of the women he had killed. Perhaps, Duan Lingtian had forgotten that he had once humiliated a woman named Xiaomu Qing. However, Duan Lingtian was here for that woman. Bastard! As Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy and saint origin surged out of his body, his eyes turned colder as he looked at Ding Yijian. Ding Yijian felt as though he was in a world of ice and snow. Although it was true that he was in a world of ice and snow, his cultivation base was not affected. However, with his cultivation base, he did not feel cold at all in this world of ice and snow. However, the coldness that came from Duan Lingtian caused his heart to feel as though it had stiffened. Swoosh! The sound of sword whistling reverberated in the air. It was like the blooming of a cactus. When Duan Lingtian raised his hand, a solidified sword ray shot out from his palm. As soon as the sword ray left Duan Lingtian's palm, it moved so fast that Ding Yijian did not even have time to react to it. It tore through the air like a flash of light. Before Ding Yijian could react, the sword ray was already inches away from him. No. When Ding Yijian finally regained his senses, the sword ray that came from Duan Lingtian had already reached the space between his eyebrows. Ding Yijian only had time to cry out in his heart. In the next moment, spurt! A soft sound rang in the air as Ding Yijian's glabella was pierced, and his soul was crushed. Although Ding Yijian was a bodiless celestial and his body was different from ordinary humans, his glabella was connected to his soul. Once it was pierced, his soul would be crushed as well. Moreover, when Duan Lingtian swung his sword, not only did it crush Ding Yijian's soul, but it also unleashed a wave of destructive energy that destroyed Ding Yijian's soul without leaving a trace behind. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Ding Yijian to survive. Crack, 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 crack. After his soul was obliterated, Ding Yijian's body was like the moon in the water. Once it was shattered, it perished between heaven and earth, leaving no trace of its existence. The entire place fell silent immediately. Among the bodiless celestials present on the scene, only the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials had seen Duan Lingtian's sword ray clearly. It seemed as though the sword ray had come from outer space and could destroy everything. So this is the sword-wielding art, the third stage of the Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang? The 5 tribulation bodiless celestials were shocked. Even if they did not die from Duan Lingtian's sword ray, they would be severely injured. If Duan Lingtian had attacked a few more times, they would not have been able to withstand it. It's said that when Duan Lingtian forced Yi Chun, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kneel and beg for mercy, he had even used the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the body and sword fusion. At that time, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Now, his strength is comparable to a peak 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even if Duan Lingtian had only used the 3rd stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene knew they were not a match for him, let alone the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword. After killing Ding Yijian, the killing intent that swept out from Duan Lingtian's body vanished without a trace. The sharp aura on his body had completely vanished as well. You can rest in peace. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he looked in the southwest direction. Xiao Mu Qing had died in the western region in that direction. It seems like things aren't as simple as they seem. At this moment, the bodiless celestials present on the scene realized things were not as simple as they had thought. Initially, they had thought Duan Lingtian had stood up for Chen Yiru because of the conflict between Chen Yiru and Ding Yijian. However, Chen Yiru did not suffer any losses in that matter. Logically speaking, Ding Yijian should have just admitted defeat. However, Duan Lingtian's shout of "bastard," coupled with his lightning-fast attack, made them realize that things were not as simple as they seemed. Could it be, as bodiless celestials who cultivated in the same place as the bodiless celestials, they knew what kind of person Ding Yijian was? Therefore, they could vaguely guess what was going on. Let's return. At the same time, Duan Lingtian bade farewell to Chen Yiru before the two of them left. They disappeared from the bodiless celestial's sight in just a blink of an eye. When Duan Lingtian and Chen Yiru left, they did not head south of the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary base. Instead, they headed east. Duan Lingtian only brought Chen Yiru to the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary estate in the southwest direction when he was certain they were out of sight and no one was tailing them. The reason Duan Lingtian did this was because he did not want to reveal where he was currently staying. After all, he and the entire Seven Absolute Sect had become a thorn in the side of the dragons. Since he was about to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, he did not want any unforeseen circumstances to arise before he entered the Sword Saint's secret zone. As they made their way to the Sword Saint's secret zone, Duan Lingtian calmed himself down and focused on the Sword Saint's secret zone. According to Senior Uncle Prophet, the other people who possessed the keys to the Sword Saint's secret zone have already used their keys. They're only missing the key in Senior Uncle Prophet's hand to open the Sword Saint's secret zone. But I don't know who has the other keys. I wonder if there are any members of the Dragon Clan, the Phoenix Clan, or the Devil Clan among those people. Apart from Duan Lingtian, even the old prophet had no clue who the owners of the other keys were. However, Duan Lingtian did not expect that the Sword Saint's secret zone would not be able to open the Sword Saint's secret zone. In fact, the Sword Saint's secret zone was not created and left behind by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. It was a beyond heaven secret zone that Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had entered in the past by chance. At that time, Duan Lingtian had entered the beyond heaven secret zone and obtained a fortuitous encounter that allowed him to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials with his cultivation base as an eminent celestial. Due to the long history of the Seven Absolute Sect, the Oracle Man thought that the Sword Saint's secret zone was a secret zone. Sword Saint Feng Qingyang had personally created and left behind the Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. Little did they know that the secret land was not created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. It was just a secret land that Feng Qingyang had entered before. At that time, Feng Qingyang had used some tricks to obtain one of the keys to open the secret land. He had kept it until now. He had left the key for the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolute Sect. At this moment, that successor had appeared. It was none other than Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was unaware that the Sword Saint's secret zone was not created and left behind by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. He was also unaware that the Sword Saint's secret zone was a secret zone. The Beyond Heaven secret zone that Duan Lingtian was about to enter was also the secret zone that Feng Qingyang had entered in the past. Each key was located in a different mundane realm. In other words, there was only one key in the mundane realm that Duan Lingtian was in. The second, third, and fourth keys were all in other mundane realms. Duan Lingtian was even more unaware that the Sword Saint's secret zone was a secret zone. One of the keys was located in the mundane realm where Duan Lingtian's hometown, Earth, was located. Chapter 2393. The name of the Sword Saint's secret zone was given to it by the members of the Seven Absolutes sect later on. It was not given by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. In short, the Sword Saint's secret zone was the Beyond Heaven secret zone that Feng Qingyang had entered and obtained great fortuitous encounters. Everything in the secret zone had nothing to do with Feng Qingyang. It was not something Feng Qingyang could control. Whether Duan Lingtian would be able to obtain fortuitous encounters or dangers in the secret zone was not something Feng Qingyang could control. The only thing Feng Qingyang could provide was the key to the secret zone. Duan Lingtian was unaware of this. Currently, he and the other members of the Seven Absolutes sect thought the Sword Saint secret zone was created by Feng Qingyang and contained the legacy and other treasures left behind by Feng Qingyang. At the gathering place of the bodiless celestials that Duan Lingtian and Qinyi Ru had just left. Whoosh! Before the gathered loose immortals could disperse, a gust of wind blew and a person appeared out of thin air. It was a middle-aged man who emitted an oppressive aura. Lord Dihuan. As soon as the middle-aged man appeared, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial stepped forward and bowed respectfully at him. Lord Dihuan. At this moment, the other bodiless celestials shifted their attention to the middle-aged man. This is Lord Dihuan, the supreme elder of the dragons. The 5 tribulation bodiless celestial who bowed respectfully said to the other bodiless celestials, Lord Dihuan? A commotion broke out among the bodiless celestials when they heard the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials' words. Perhaps they had not seen Dihuan before. However, they knew he was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, the supreme elder of the dragons. Dichen, the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons who was forced to kneel and beg for mercy by Duan Lingtian, was Dihuan's son. Greetings, Lord Dihuan. Greetings, Lord Dihuan. The group of bodiless celestials bowed respectfully at Dihuan when they learned the middle-aged man was Dihuan. It was not because he was a supreme elder of the dragons, but because he was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Dihuan ignored the greetings of the bodiless celestials. He looked at the 5 tribulation bodiless immortal who bowed to him first and asked hastily, Didn't you say Duan Lingtian is here? Where is he? Dihuan's tone was unfriendly as he asked the question. Dihuan had come here after receiving the message from the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, he could not find any trace of Duan Lingtian even though his divine consciousness had covered a large area. He felt as though he had been deceived. Lord Dihuan, Duan Lingtian went east. I'm not as strong as him, so I didn't dare to follow him. The 5 tribulation bodiless celestial replied. The 5 tribulation bodiless celestial was afraid Dihuan would misunderstand his words, so he added, Duan Lingtian was indeed here earlier and headed east. Everyone here can attest to this. I wouldn't dare to deceive you, Lord Dihuan. Very good. If I manage to catch up to him, I'll definitely reward you handsomely. Dihuan's eyes flashed as he said this. Then, he seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind and disappeared before the group of bodiless celestials. How fast? So this is the speed of a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? The group of bodiless celestials present on the scene were shocked when they saw Dihuan vanishing before their eyes. Although they were bodiless celestials, it was rare for them to encounter a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. In the circle of bodiless celestials, there were very few 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. Most bodiless celestials regarded them highly as well. When bodiless celestials saw a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial or above, they would feel like they were on a pilgrimage to a god. As it turned out, Duan Lingtian had made the right choice by taking a detour back to the 7 Absolutes sect's temporary estate. Otherwise, Dihuan, the supreme elder of the dragons, would have caught up to them as soon as they left. Currently, even if Duan Lingtian used all his techniques, his strength was only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. He could not be compared to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial like Dihuan. If he were to face Dihuan head-on, he would be reduced to a fish on the chopping board, completely at Dihuan's mercy. At the 7 Absolutes sect's temporary estate on a nameless snow-capped mountain, Junior Uncle Prophet, I've dealt with my matter. If there's no problem with the others, we can enter the Sword Saint's secret zone now. As soon as Duan Lingtian returned, he could not wait to look for the Oracle Man. He was eager to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. The others that Duan Lingtian mentioned were, naturally, the successors of the other Absolutes of the 7 Absolute sect. Currently, the successors of the 3rd Absolute, the Kratos progeny, and the 4th Absolute, the Dark Shadow progeny, had died in the hands of the people from the dragons. There were only 6 successors left in the 7 Absolute sect. They were Duan Lingtian,
Mu Yi, Feng Tianwu, Han Xuanai, Nangong Chun, and Nangong Yi.
All right. The old prophet could sense Duan Ling Tian's eagerness to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone as soon as possible. After replying to Duan Ling Tian, he went to look for the successors of the various absolutes. About 15 minutes later, Duan Ling Tian received a message from the Oracle Man to depart immediately and look for a secluded place to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. Soon after, the group left the nameless snowy peak and headed northeast. Apart from Duan Ling Tian and the successors of the absolutes, there were also the Oracle Man, Ke, Qinghua, and Ganru Yin. However, only Duan Ling Tian and the successors of the absolutes were allowed to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. Senior Prophet. On the way, Ganru Yin looked at the Oracle Man and asked eagerly, "Can I enter the Sword Saint's secret zone?" Only the sect leader of the 7 Absolutes sect can decide who can enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. The Oracle Man glanced at Duan Ling Tian and said. Ganru Yin immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian. No. Before Ganru Yin could say anything, Duan Ling Tian rejected her. According to the warning passed down in the 7 Absolute sect, those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage shouldn't enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. According to Senior Feng Qingyang's warning, those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage will most likely die if they enter the Sword Saint secret zone. The 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, it was obvious he was trying to push Ganru Yin away. Although Ganru Yin's cultivation speed was fast and her cultivation base had improved, she had only just broken through to the 6th form of the Saint Celestial stage. She was still quite a distance away from breaking through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Ganru Yin was speechless when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. Disappointment was written all over her face. However, she did not say anything else. Now that Duan Ling Tian had told her about the warning that had been passed down in the 7 Absolutes sect for generations, she did not dare to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone even if he did. Those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage would most likely die if they entered the Sword Saint's secret zone. Although she wanted to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone to search for fortuitous encounters, she dismissed the thought when she thought about how she would most likely die if she entered the Sword Saint's secret zone. Compared to his life, those so-called fortuitous encounters were not worth mentioning at all. After all, her life was the most important thing. If she lost her life, she would lose everything. Master, can I enter? Chen Ru asked as he looked at Duan Ling Tian with an eager expression on his face. Junior Uncle Prophet said there's an age limit for those who can enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. Only those below the age of 100 can enter. Duan Ling Tian said, when the Sword Saint's secret zone opens, try to see if you can enter. If you can enter as well. Who knows, you might be able to obtain some fortuitous encounters as well. Duan Ling Tian had never been a stingy person. Although Chen Ru had not been with him for a long time, he had sworn on the lightning penalty oath, so he did not doubt Chen Ru's loyalty. If Chen Ru could enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, Duan Ling Tian would definitely allow him to enter. Thank you, Master. Chen Ru thanked Duan Ling Tian. His eyes lit up as though he had seen a ray of hope. He was relieved when he heard his master's words. It would be good if he could enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. However, there was nothing he could do if he could not enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. After all, he could not change his age just because he wanted to. Let's go here. As they traveled all the way towards the northeast, Duan Ling Tian took a fancy to an ice mountain valley in the end. Based on the ice that formed the iceberg valley, one could tell it had been frozen for a long time. This ice had existed for quite some time. It was at least 1,000 years old, or even 10,000 years old. Moreover, the iceberg valley was surrounded by a thick white mist. From afar, it looked no different from snow falling from the sky. If an ordinary passerby didn't use their divine sense to investigate, they wouldn't be able to discover the location of this valley at all. This place is not bad. The Oracle Man looked around and nodded. He felt that Duan Ling Tian had chosen a good place. The others did not have any objections as well. After they entered the iceberg valley, Duan Ling Tian and the others' figures were concealed by the white mist. From the outside, it was impossible to tell they were in the valley. This box contains the key to the Sword Saint's secret zone that has been passed down for generations in the Seven Absolute sect. When they arrived at the Ice Mountain Valley, the old prophet raised his hand and took out a black box before he passed it to Duan Tian. There's a restriction formation on the box. It's said that it was left behind by Patriarch Feng Qingyang. It's said that only the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, can open it. As for how to open it, I'm not sure. You can try. Chapter 2394. This box. After taking the box from the Oracle Man, Duan Tian discovered it was heavy. He did not know what material it was made of. Even when he passed the box to Chenny Ru and asked him to open it with his strength as a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, it did not budge. Let alone opening it, there were no signs of it being opened at all. Master, there's nothing I can do. In the end, Chenny Ru handed the box back to Duan Tian helplessly. When the box returned to Duan Tian's hand, the cracks in the void in front of him began to close. This was the result of him using his full strength just now. His power had shattered the space and left behind cracks in the void. Elementary devouring tactic. As soon as Duan Tian took the box, he immediately cast his assist-type divine ability to absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings to strengthen the energy in his body. Not only that, but he also cast the sword-wielding art that was given to him by the third stage of the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. Whoosh! The sound of sword whistling rang in the air as Duan Tian shot out a ray of sword chi from his palm toward the box. Chi, chi, chi. In just a blink of an eye, cracks appeared in the void in the wake of the sword chi. Moreover, the cracks were so large that it would take at least 15 minutes for them to close up. Duan Tian thought the box would not budge even if he cast an attack comparable to a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, since Chenny Ru had attacked with all his strength. However, to his surprise, the sword chi that shot out of the box was not something he had expected. When the sharp sword light from his palm came into contact with the closed part of the box, it instantly melted away. The white sword aura turned into a white liquid at this moment, swirling around the closed part of the box. Crack! In the next moment, along with a soft sound, the box in Duan Tian's hand opened. Seeing this scene, Duan Tian was stunned. Then, he came back to his senses and faintly realized what was going on. It seems like the formation on the box is closely related to the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, that Senior Feng Qingyang left behind. I used the technique bestowed upon me by the Supreme Sword Dao mantra, the Sovereign Heart Sword. When I touched this box, I didn't even need to expend much effort to open it. At this time, no matter how slow Duan Tian's reaction was, he still reacted in time. Master, that sword strike of yours is only comparable to the attack of a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, right? How did you open the box so easily? Chenny Ru asked in disbelief. The others also looked at Duan Tian in confusion. They didn't understand what was going on either. Although Duan Tian's attack was stronger than Chenny Ru's, it was not much stronger. However, the difference between the two attacks was like heaven and earth. It's because of the legacy left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, the Supreme Sword Dao mantra, the Sovereign Heart Sword. Earlier, I used the technique bestowed upon me by the Sovereign Heart Sword to remove the restrictions on the box. As Duan Tian explained, he looked at the box that had been opened. There was a copper ball lying quietly in the box. The surroundings of the copper ball were engraved with some complicated patterns. It looked like a picture, but it also looked like some kind of text. All in all, Duan Tian was completely unable to discern whether the complicated veined patterns on it were patterns or words. Is this the key to the Sword Saint's secret zone? Duan Tian picked up the copper ball and looked at it carefully. He did not see anything special about the inscriptions. The gazes of the others also landed on the copper ball. Try to infuse your saint origin into it. With that thought in mind, Duan Tian extended his hand and infused his saint origin into the copper ball. During this process, Duan Tian discovered that the copper ball in the copper ball was not small at all. The copper ball was like an insatiable child as it greedily absorbed Duan Tian's saint origin. It only stopped when more than half of the Saint Origin in Duan Lingtian's body had been absorbed. Huh. It was also at this moment that Duan Lingtian noticed a strong repulsive force suddenly emitted from the copper ball, and it shook his hand away. Following that, the copper ball left Duan Lingtian's hand and floated in the air on its own. The inscriptions around the copper ball that looked like drawings and words lit up at this moment, dazzling and eye-catching. Apart from that, the light from the inscriptions around the copper ball became brighter as time passed. This is, just as the gazes of the others, including the old man of heavenly secrets, were attracted by the copper ball boom. A loud explosion reverberated in the air. In the next moment, everyone, including Duan Lingtian, felt as though they had been blinded by daylight. It was extremely dazzling, as though something had exploded. At the same time, a vast and gentle power slapped on their bodies, pushing them away. Although the group of people was pushed away, they were not injured. This was because the force was very gentle and did not possess any offensive power. It merely pushed them away. When they stopped and took a closer look, they discovered something else. At the place where the copper ball had been, there was now another black hole. The black hole that appeared out of thin air had a whirlpool revolving around it. It seemed to be maintaining the operation of the black hole that looked like a crack in the void. This was because the black hole did not show any signs of closing since it had appeared. Is this the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone? Duan Lingtian and the others had the same thought when they saw the pitch black hole that led to an unknown destination. Duan Lingtian and the others' attention was attracted by the black hole in front of them that was the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone. At this moment, the black holes in the other mundane realms that were shrouded by a mysterious force had also returned to normal. This was because the mysterious force had disappeared without a trace. That's, the Beyond Heaven secret zone has opened? Heavens! After 30,000 years, the Beyond Heaven secret zone has finally opened again. The people in the mundane realms who discovered the black hole had returned to normal could not help but exclaim in surprise. These mundane realms included the mundane realm where Duan Lingtian was from in his previous life. The mundane realm Earth was located in was a vast universe. It was also a large mundane realm. There were countless planets and galaxies in it. Earth, on the other hand, was as insignificant as a speck of dust in this large mundane realm. However, many years ago, when Earth was still planet Yanhuang, although it was very small, it was one of the few cultivation planets in this large mundane realm. The so-called origin planet of cultivation referred to the earliest planets that relied on absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to strengthen themselves. Back then, planet Yanhuang, as one of the planets where cultivation originated, had given birth to many cultivators. Among them were the various figures in the ancient myths and legends that Duan Lingtian had heard of in his past life, such as Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Neza, and so on. Later on, due to the increasing number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang, the heaven and earth spirit energy on planet Yanhuang rapidly dried up. At this time, the cultivators on planet Yanhuang began to migrate on a large scale. In the end, the number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang, which was also known as Earth, had dwindling heaven and earth spirit energy. Not only that, but the number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang also became weaker and weaker. Due to this reason, during Duan Lingtian's era, even a formal martial grandmaster like him could do whatever he wanted in the world. The cultivators who migrated from planet Yanhuang, as well as the cultivators from several other planets of origin, also established their own orthodoxies in some planets and galaxies with rich world energy and left their own inheritances behind. The Celestial Masters sect was an ancient sect that had migrated from planet Yanhuang. The founder of the Celestial Masters sect was none other than Celestial Master Zhang from ancient myths and legends. Currently, the Celestial Masters sect controlled an entire galaxy. Its headquarters was located on a planet that was several times larger than Earth. The Beyond Heaven secret zone has opened. When the news spread to the Celestial Masters sect, the entire sect was shocked. It has been nearly 20,000 years since the key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone appeared in our mundane realm and was used. After 20,000 years, the last key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone has finally appeared and been used. Only when all the keys to the Beyond Heaven secret zone appear, and are used will the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone be opened. This time, I hope the powerhouses of the Celestial Masters sect will be able to obtain great fortuitous encounters in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, so that the overall strength of the Celestial Masters sect will be greatly improved. Unfortunately, the Celestial Masters sect isn't the only sect that knows about the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In other words, the powerhouses from the Celestial Masters sect won't only have to face powerhouses from other mundane realms, but they'll also have to face powerhouses from the same mundane realm. After learning that the Beyond Heaven secret zone had opened, the entire Celestial Masters sect was in an uproar. Currently, in the mundane realm where Earth was located, the Celestial Masters sect was not the only one who had learned about the opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Even the sectless cultivators from other forces had rushed to the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Chapter 2395. There were a total of 5 keys in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. They were located in 5 different mundane realms. As long as a key was found and used, the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone would appear. Naturally, before all the keys were found and used, the entrances and exits would be concealed by a mysterious energy. Due to this reason, it was impossible to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone through them. Only when all of the keys were used and the last entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone appeared would the mysterious energy above the other entrances and exits disappear. At that time, the Beyond Heaven secret zone would officially open. This time, the key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone that Duan Ling Tian had used was the last key to appear and was used. For this reason, after Duan Ling Tian used the key, the Beyond Heaven secret zone would open. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian was unaware of this. In the northern region, in an iceberg valley shrouded in white mist, the Sword Saint secret zone is finally open. Our 7 Absolutes sect will regain its former glory. The Oracle Man looked at the huge black hole in front of him with a pious and excited expression on his face. As the former successor of the Prophet progeny in the 7 Absolute sect, he was the most senior person in the 7 Absolute sect. He was excited when he saw the hope of the 7 Absolutes sect rising again. At the same time, he also hoped that the 7 Absolutes sect would regain its former glory when Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was still alive. Now that the Sword Saint secret zone had opened and the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first Absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, was about to enter, he could already see the 7 Absolute sect rising to prominence. However, he was unaware that the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone was not big. The black hole in front of him was not the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone. Instead, it was the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Moreover, everything in the Beyond Heaven secret zone was not left behind by Feng Qingyang, the founding ancestor of the 7 Absolute sect. Moreover, the people from the 7 Absolute sect were not the only ones who would enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There were also powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms. Apart from that, the number of powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms was terrifying as well. There was once a mundane realm where the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone changed. When the Beyond Heaven secret zone officially opened, thousands of people swarmed into it. There was no lack of powerful bodiless celestials among these people. Sandao, we should arrive at the Sword Saint secret zone after we pass through this black hole. Senior Uncle Prophet said that according to the legend passed down in the 7 Absolute sect, those above the age of 100 are not allowed to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Why don't you try and see if the sayings passed down by our 7 Absolute sect are false? Duan Lingtian looked at Chenny Ru and said, "Yes, master." Chenny Ru nodded and flew out, arriving in front of the black hole. Standing in front of the black hole, he could clearly feel an oppressive aura. This aura came from the power that stabilized the black hole around it. He had a feeling that if his body rashly came into contact with these powers, he would directly turn into ashes and completely disappear from this world. It doesn't seem to reject me. When Channy Ru moved closer to the black hole, he did not feel any rejection. His courage grew as he leaned forward and touched the black hole. In just a blink of an eye, his hand had already touched the black hole. "Master, I should be able to enter the black hole." I can feel a suction force wrapping around my hand. It's getting stronger and stronger, as though it's trying to suck me in. Chunyi Ru said to Duan Lingtian after his body was sucked into the black hole and only half of his body was left. You can enter first. Duan Lingtian nodded. He was happy for Chunyi Ru. After all, as a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, he should be able to obtain many benefits from entering the secret zone left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. Master, I'll wait for you inside. Chunyi Ru only managed to say these words before he was completely sucked into the black hole. The people present on the scene only regained their senses after Chunyi Ru was sucked into the black hole. Isn't it said that only those below the age of 100 can enter the Sword Saint secret zone? Duan Lingtian's servant seems to be a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, right? He's an old freak who has lived for more than 5,000 years. If even he can enter the Sword Saint secret zone, who can't? Nangongyi said in shock. What's going on? The Oracle Man was confused as well. According to the warnings passed down in the Seven Absolute Sect, those above the age of 100 were indeed not allowed to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Moreover, this warning was not added by the disciples of the Seven Absolute Sect. It was said that Patriarch Feng Qingyang had personally said it. Perhaps there's no age restriction for bodiless celestials? At this moment, Duan Lingtian speculated, the most direct way to find out a person's age is to check the body before checking the soul. Perhaps it's because bodiless celestials don't have a human body that they can bypass this restriction. In fact, Duan Lingtian was right. The Sword Saint secret zone was actually the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It did not restrict bodiless celestials from entering. It only restricted those above the age of 100 who were not bodiless celestials. If one was not a bodiless celestial and above the age of 100, one would not be able to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In other words, currently, those who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone from the various mundane realms were either powerful bodiless celestials or monstrous geniuses. After all, those below the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone would most likely die. Duan Lingtian, the two of us will go in first. You should hurry as well. Nangongyi bade farewell to Duan Lingtian before he and Nangong Chun entered the black hole together. It was as though they had never been there. Junior Uncle Prophet, how long does the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone last? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at the Oracle Man. I heard it's 10 years. The Oracle Man replied. This was a saying passed down from generation to generation in the Seven Absolute Sect. It originated from ancestor Feng Qingyang of the Seven Absolute Sect. 10 years. Upon hearing the Oracle Man's words, Duan Lingtian turned to look at Gan Ruyan. Gan Ruyan's eyes lit up when she heard the Oracle Man's words. Duan Lingtian turned to Gan Ruyan and said, with your current innate talent, you'll be able to break through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage in a year or two at most. At that time, you can decide if you want to enter or not. Although those at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage or above won't die in there, there's still a high chance of death. Duan Lingtian reminded Gan Ruyan solemnly when he reached the end of his sentence. Aren't the Nangong brothers at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage as well? If they can enter, why can't I enter after I've broken through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage? I'll definitely enter once I break through to the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. Gan Ruyan said confidently. Miss Ruyan. The Oracle Man looked at Gan Ruyan and said, Sect leader is telling you this out of concern for your safety. As for the Nangong brothers, they're the successors of the six Absolutes Gemini progeny. They have the responsibility of reviving the Seven Absolute Sect. Even if the path ahead is filled with danger, they'll still enter it. This is their responsibility, and also their mission. The Oracle Man said solemnly when he reached the end of his sentence. After a while, the solemn expression on the Oracle Man's face faded. You're different. You have nothing to do with the Seven Absolute Sect. The Sword Saint secret zone is filled with danger. I suggest you don't enter it even if your cultivation base is at the seventh form of the Saint Celestial stage. Who said I have nothing to do with the Seven Absolute Sect? Gan Ruyan glanced at Kerr and said, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect is my brother-in-law. As the sister of the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect, I'm responsible for reviving the Seven Absolutes sect as well. I'll definitely enter the Sword Saint secret zone once my cultivation base is at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Ever since Ganru Yin met the female disciples of the Seven Absolutes sect, Feng Tianwu, Han Xuanai, and Mu Yi, the sense of superiority she had when she was in the Zoroastrianism had vanished. She had always had a strong personality. Now that there was a chance to change her fate, how could she miss it? The Sword Saint secret zone. It was the secret zone left behind by the Sword Saint, Feng Qingyang. Feng Qingyang was an eminent celestial who had killed an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial and fought against a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial. Throughout the history of the Dao Martial Saintland, it seemed like Feng Qingyang was the only one who was capable of doing this. How could she miss out on a chance to enter the secret zone left behind by such a person? You can enter if you want, but you must be careful. Duan Lingtian and Ganru Yin had known each other for a long time. Although they did not interact much, he knew Ganru Yan's character. Therefore, he knew it would be difficult to change Ganru Yan's mind. For this reason, he did not try to persuade her. However, he still reminded Ganru Yin, "When the time comes, I'll enter with Ru Yin." At this moment, Ganru Yan's master, Qing Hua, spoke up. If he was alone, he would not be able to make up his mind to enter the Sword Saint secret zone even if his cultivation base was at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. At his age, he knew how precious life was. However, since his disciple, whom he treated like his own daughter, was going to enter the secret zone, he had to accompany her with his life. If his disciple had an accident inside and he didn't follow in, then even if he lived well, he would have to live in pain and regret for the rest of his life. At that time, he would think. Chapter 2396. Master, didn't you hear what he said earlier? If you're not a bodiless celestial, you shouldn't be able to enter the Sword Saint secret zone if you're older than 100 years old. Ganru Yin was touched when she heard her master's words. She could not help but remind her master. She believed Duan Lingtian's words. Guardian Lingtian, it's just a guess. Since Senior Sword Saint didn't restrict bodiless celestials whose souls are more than 100 years old, why would he restrict non-bodiless celestials whose bodies are more than 100 years old? Based on Qinghua's words, it was obvious he did not care about Duan Lingtian's guess at all. Since Qinghua was used to calling Duan Lingtian Guardian Lingtian, he continued to address Duan Lingtian as such. Duan Lingtian could not help but correct Qinghua when he heard Qinghua's words. Guardian Qinghua, why don't you think about it? Although Senior Feng Qingyang's strength was heaven-defying and could kill an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial, his cultivation base was only that of an eminent celestial. In other words, his soul is only at the level of an eminent celestial. How could he set up a formation to prevent bodiless celestials from entering if his soul is only at the level of an eminent celestial? After all, a bodiless celestial soul is made of a bodiless celestial soul. Duan Lingtian added. Qinghua fell silent upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words. After a while, Qinghua's eyes flashed as he said, "Since you say so, I'll give it a try." If the entrance of the Sword Saint's secret zone rejects non-bodiless celestials who are more than 100 years old, I'm sure I'll be able to feel the resistance before I even touch it. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not wait for Duan Lingtian and the others to reply before he flew toward the black hole in the sky. Qinghua instinctively wanted to stop as he approached the black hole. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the mysterious force around the black hole that had stabilized the black hole suddenly began to boil. Then, ripples spread out, slamming into Qinghua and sending him flying. Wah! As for Qinghua, who had been sent flying, he spat out a large mouthful of blood along the way, looking battered and exhausted. When Qinghua finally managed to stabilize himself, he smiled bitterly as he looked at the black hole floating in the air. "Master, are you all right?" Upon seeing this, Ganru Yin could not be bothered with anything else. She immediately went to Qinghua's side and asked worriedly. "I'm fine." Qinghua shook his head and smiled bitterly. "If I had believed Guardian Lingtian from the start, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Now, Blue Fire was completely sure. Duan Lingtian was right. In fact, Duan Lingtian's guess and subsequent additions were just a blind cat running into a dead mouse. This was not the reason the Beyond Heaven secret zone's entrance and exit were restricted. Naturally, Duan Lingtian only found out the reason after he had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone for a while. At that time, he would feel embarrassed for the explanation he had given Qinghua. After all, it was all nonsense in front of the truth. As expected, at this moment, Duan Lingtian was certain he had guessed correctly. Brother Lingtian, you're really amazing. How did you figure it out? Han Shu and I looked at Duan Lingtian in awe. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Sect leader is really amazing. The Oracle man chimed in. As for Ke, Duan Xiling, and Feng Tianwu, although they did not say anything, their eyes shone brightly as they looked at Duan Lingtian. Duan Xiling, in particular, had a hint of admiration in the depths of her eyes. Although Duan Lingtian had experienced many similar gazes in the past, he could not help but feel a little smug when faced with the admiring gazes from the surroundings. At this moment, even Mu Yi, the Oracle man's direct disciple and the successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of surprise in her eyes, even though she did not look at him with admiration. In the past, she had thought that the current sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect, who had always been stronger than her, was merely lucky to be stronger than her. She did not expect this to happen. She did not expect the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect would be able to figure out the reason why the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone was restricted to those who were over 100 years old, but not those who were over 100 years old based on ancestor Feng Qingyang's cultivation base. As the saying went, the higher one climbs, the harder one falls. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was still in high spirits. However, he did not know he was about to fall to his death. Junior Uncle Prophet, it's time for me to enter as well. After a while, Duan Lingtian regained his senses and looked at the Oracle man as he said this. If there was someone who was most eager to enter the Sword Saint secret zone, it would undoubtedly be Duan Lingtian. Currently, there were 3 people who had entered the Sword Saint secret zone before Duan Lingtian. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was even more eager to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. However, before he entered, he still had to greet the Oracle man. Go on. The Oracle man nodded when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. At the same time, he said with a hopeful expression on his face, I hope you'll be able to obtain the legacy left behind by ancestor Feng Qingyang. If that's the case, with your current strength as a foundation, you'll be able to improve by leaps and bounds. Let alone catch up to ancestral master Feng Qingyang. You might even surpass him. There was a reason why the Elder of Heavenly Secrets said this. After all, even the Patriarch of the Seven Absolute sect, Feng Qingyang, was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial when he was an eminent celestial with the 5th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the Heart Sword amalgamation. However, the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect was also an eminent celestial. However, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial just by relying on the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the Brilliant Sword Heart. In terms of potential, he was even more outstanding than ancestor Feng Qingyang. For this reason, he was certain Duan Lingtian would be able to kill a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial if he managed to obtain the legacy left behind by Feng Qingyang in the Sword Saint secret zone. Unfortunately, the Oracle man was unaware that the Sword Saint secret zone did not exist at all. The black hole in front of him was the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone. He was also unaware that the Beyond Heaven secret zone was filled with dangers. Apart from the dangers of the Beyond Heaven secret zone, one would also have to deal with the powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms. Previously, it was considered a miracle that Feng Qingyang managed to survive the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After all, Feng Qingyang was not the only person from the mundane realm who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There were also some bodiless celestials from the dragons and phoenixes who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone as well. However, none of the bodiless celestials had managed to come out. Duan Lingtian looked at his wife, and said, I'll leave Si Ling in your care after I enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Go ahead, Brother Tian. Nodded. Be careful. All right. Duan Lingtian did not notice the change in Sealing's expression. In the depths of Ku Er's eyes, there was an unfathomable glint that flashed for an instant. It was as if a thought had popped up in his heart in an instant, and this thought could make him very excited. Sealing, I'll be leaving for a while. After I leave, you have to listen to your mother. Do you understand? Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Duan Sealing affectionately. Daddy, Sealing has grown up. You don't have to talk to me like a child. I don't like it. Duan Sealing frowned playfully and said with a disdainful expression on her face. Haha. The Oracle Man and Qinghua laughed. Even the other women, including Mu Yi, the successor of the prophet progeny, could not help but laugh as well. In my eyes, you'll still be a child even after a few decades, Duan Lingtian said in annoyance after he regained his senses and chuckled. Xuanai, Tian Wu, junior sister Yi. At the same time, Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai, Feng Tianwu, and Mu Yi, it's time for us to enter. We don't know what will happen after we enter. I'm even wondering if we'll end up in the same place after we enter. However, regardless of whether we'll end up in the same place or not, we have to be careful. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he entered the black hole in a flash. The Oracle Man, Qing Xian, and Gan Ru Yin thought the three people who entered the black hole behind Duan Lingtian were Han Xuanai, Feng Tianwu, and Mu Yi. Sister, take good care of Sealing. A soft and pleasant voice rang in the air before Feng Tianwu and the other two women could make their move. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the woman who looked identical to Gan Ru Yin, standing next to Duan Sealing Wush. The woman seemed to have turned into a gust of wind and disappeared before their eyes. It was as if she had never appeared. In the next moment, they subconsciously shifted their gazes to the black hole, only to find that there were circles of ripples spreading out from the black hole. This was enough to prove that someone had entered the black hole. Gan Ru Yin was completely stunned. She was stunned not because Kerr had entered the Sword Saint's secret zone after Duan Lingtian, but because of Kerr's speed. From the beginning until the end, she could not even catch a glimpse of Kerr. Chapter 2397. Sister Kerr's speed is so fast? I can't even catch a glimpse of her. After Han Xuanai regained her senses, she said with a shocked expression, What? Even you can't catch a glimpse of her? The Oracle Man who had just regained his senses was shocked when he heard Han Xuanai's words. Initially, he was worried Kerr, the sect leader's woman, would be in danger if she entered the Sword Saint's secret zone recklessly. After all, in his opinion, Kerr's cultivation base was, at most, slightly stronger than his. It was impossible for her to be at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. But now, it seemed like he was completely wrong. Han Xuanai, the current successor of the Red Dust progeny, the 7th absolute of the 7 absolute sect, had already broken through to the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, she could not even catch a glimpse of the sect leader's wife. What did this mean? After all, no matter how powerful a powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage was, they would still be able to catch a glimpse of their movements. Unless she's already an eminent celestial. The Oracle Man's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this. Only an eminent celestial would be able to completely disappear from the sight of a powerhouse at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage like Han Xuanai if they moved at full speed. I can't catch a glimpse of Sister Kerr as well. Feng Tianwu chimed in while the Oracle Man was still in shock over the possibility of Kerr's cultivation base being an eminent celestial. The Oracle Man was dumbfounded. In the 7 Absolute sect, apart from Duan Lingtian, who was the strongest person after Duan Lingtian was his direct disciple, Mu Yi, and Feng Tianwu, the successor of the 5th Absolute, the Blazing Phoenix progeny. Both of their cultivation bases were at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, Feng Tianwu said she could not catch a glimpse of Kerr, the wife of sect leader Duan Lingtian. She's crazy. She's crazy. For a moment, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets felt his head go numb. She's too fast. I can't catch a glimpse of her. Her speed is comparable to a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial or even faster. The old prophet's scalp turned numb when he heard the voice of his direct disciple, Mu-Yi, the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the seven absolutes sect, enter his ears. This caused him, whose scalp was already numb, to be completely dumbfounded. He was unable to regain his senses for a long time. Mu-Yi's wife's cultivation-based speed, Mu's of the celestials. However, even his personal disciple said that he was unable to catch sight of their sect master's wife, sect leader's wife. Who exactly is she? After regaining his senses, the oracle man couldn't help but reveal a bitter expression. It seems like sect leader Tang Xian was telling the truth. The saintess is probably the reincarnation of a goddess. If she's not the reincarnation of a goddess, how could she possess a speed comparable to a three-tribulation bodiless celestial in such a short time? Hearing the oracle man's bitter words, Blue Fire couldn't help but sigh. She, after learning about her sister's current strength, Ganru Yin was shocked, but at the same time, a smile appeared on her face. She was happy for her sister from the bottom of her heart. In the past, in front of Duan Lingtian, she knew very well how inferior her younger sister was. Her younger sister had always hated herself for being too weak. She couldn't keep up with her man's pace and would only drag him down. Although she did not know what was going on, she had a feeling that her sister's strength was not weak at all. Her sister's strength was comparable to a three-tribulation bodiless celestial. Three-tribulation bodiless celestial? Wow, Mother is amazing. Duan Siling, who had just regained her senses, heard Mu-Yi's words. Her eyes lit up with excitement. From today onward, Father is no longer the only idol of Siling. Mother is Siling's idol as well. At this moment, Duan Siling had also begun to regard her mother as her idol, the reincarnation of a goddess. Sister Kerr is really amazing. Feng Tianwu had also heard about Kerr being the reincarnation of a goddess. When she learned about Kerr's current strength, she was also happy for Kerr. Mu-Yi was the only one who had a complicated expression on her face. Initially, she thought only the current sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, Duan Lingtian, was stronger than her. She did not expect even Duan Lingtian's wife would be stronger than her. Master, I'll go in first. Taking a deep breath, Mu-Yi bid farewell to Elder Tianji before disappearing into the black hole as well. It was as if she had never appeared in the first place. Senior Uncle Prophet, I'll go in as well. Feng Tianwu followed suit. Senior Uncle Prophet, if I don't come out, please light an incense stick for my master on her death anniversary. Han Shuanai said to the oracle man as she was about to enter the black hole. Silly girl, what nonsense are you talking about? The oracle man frowned when he heard her words. You must be careful when you enter the black hole. As for your master, you'll have to light an incense stick yourself. I'm just saying, what if? Han Shuanai smiled wryly. Her cultivation base was only at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. She was only slightly stronger than Nangong and Duan Lingtian. She was not certain if she would be able to come out alive. There's no what if. The oracle man said solemnly. Han Shuanai sighed before she flew into the black hole as well. In just a blink of an eye, only the oracle man, Xinghua, Ganru Yin, and Duan Siling were left outside. Let's go back. This place is so secluded that I don't think anyone will be able to find this place. The oracle man said to Ganru Yin and the others after Duan Lingtian and the others had entered the black hole. In just a blink of an eye, the four of them left the Ice Mountain Valley and returned to the nameless snowy peak where the Seven Absolutes sect's temporary estate was located. Meanwhile, Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons, was still searching desperately for Duan Lingtian. He wanted to find Duan Lingtian and avenge his son. Alas, his efforts were in vain. 3 months passed by in just a blink of an eye. Among the dragons, Di Qin's 6th bodiless celestial tribulation had finally arrived. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Duan Lingtian was still alive and kicking, there was no way Di Chun could get rid of the obsession in his heart due to Duan Lingtian's humiliation. For this reason, he was powerless when faced with the bodiless celestial tribulation. The most important tribulation of the bodiless celestial tribulation was the inner demon tribulation. The inner demon tribulation targeted a person's heart. If there was any trauma in the person's heart, or if there was something in the person's past that the person was unwilling to recall, it would be magnified by the inner demon tribulation and affect the person undergoing the tribulation. Generally speaking, it was almost impossible for those who were affected by the inner demon tribulation to pass the tribulation. For this reason, when Emperor Chun encountered the sixth bodiless celestial tribulation, his obsession was magnified by the inner demon tribulation. Due to this reason, he did not succeed in overcoming the tribulation and was killed by the tribulation lightning. He was turned into ashes and disappeared from this world. Chun'er. After Di Chun was killed by the tribulation lightning, Di Huan, who had witnessed Di Chen's death, could not help but cry out in grief. Di Huan's cry rang in the dragon's ears, causing the dragons to be at a loss for words. This is the Supreme Elder's voice? It seems to be. Isn't today the day the Supreme Elder's son, Di Chun, is undergoing the heavenly tribulation? Why is he in such a state? It seems like Di Chen's heavenly tribulation doesn't bode well for him. Duan Ling Tian is still alive and well. Di Chun, who was once humiliated by Duan Ling Tian, has no way of resisting the inner demon tribulation of a bodiless celestial. I'm not surprised that he failed the inner demon tribulation. Sure. Keep your voice down. Are you seeking death? If the Supreme Elder hears your words, you'll be crippled even if you don't die. Soon after, all the dragons learned the reason for Di Huan's cry of grief. The dragons had lost a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. In my opinion, Di Chen should have fought to the death with Duan Ling Tian instead of kowtowing to Duan Ling Tian and begging for mercy. If he had chosen to die in Duan Ling Tian's hands, he would have gained a good reputation among the dragons. However, not only did he die in order to live for another 6 months, but his name is infamous among the dragons. Perhaps he didn't expect things to turn out this way. His father is the Supreme Elder. Perhaps he was confident his father would be able to avenge him. That's why he didn't take his obsession to heart. So what if he's the Supreme Elder? In the end, he still couldn't find Duan Ling Tian and avenge him. Similar discussions spread among the dragons. Duan Ling Tian. If I don't kill you, I, Di Huan, am not a human. After a few hours, Di Huan's cry of grief reverberated in the air again. It was so loud that the entire dragon's estate shook violently as though an earthquake had occurred. At the same time, Di Huan's voice rang in the air. At the same time, the void in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land tore open as tall figures appeared one after another. These tall figures either had the head of a cow, the head of a pig, or the head of a horse. All in all, these creatures all looked very strange, and there was nothing more strange than that. This is the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land? Chapter 2398. Ever since Duan Ling Tian returned to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land and destroyed the inter-province transportation formation that the Devil clans had set up in the lower province, many things had happened in the lower province. First, the Devil clans discovered the inter-province transportation formation had been destroyed and that the formation masters from the Devil clans had been killed. Most of these formation grandmasters of the Devil race had extraordinary backgrounds. Their deaths quickly alerted the forces behind them, and the bodiless celestials behind them were alerted as well. At the same time, a group of bodiless celestials from the human Devil clan came out. Soon after, the bodiless celestials from the Devil clans came out of their cultivation places in the land of exile and came to the Debussy subterranean. They worked together to forcefully open a space tunnel for the vanguard of the Devil clans to enter the upper province. Powerful bodiless celestials could tear the space barrier between the Debussy subterranean and the upper province with their bare hands and travel freely between the lower and upper province. This was the case for Duan Ling Tian. Currently, the long and narrow space rifts in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were created by the bodiless celestials from the Devil clans. The group of monsters that came out from the space rifts were the vanguard of the Devil clans. The vanguard of the Devil clans that had entered the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Due to the appearance of the 7 Absolutes sect and the strength of the dragons, the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land no longer had their attention on the Devil clans. For this reason, When the vanguard of the devil clans entered the upper province, the people from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land did not even have time to react, let alone prepare for it. In just a blink of an eye, the vanguard of the devil clans slaughtered the people from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The devil clans. They're from the devil clans. The devil clans are invading. The devil clans are invading. At this moment, the humans who were fleeing in all directions in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land could not help but cry out in panic. This was because they discovered that the devil clans were stronger than them. The strength of the devil clans was far stronger than them. Although there were some powerful humans among them, they were quickly overwhelmed by the devil clans. Compared to the unity of the devil clans, the humans were like a plate of loose sand. In just a month, 1/10 of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had already fallen. At the same time, everyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land learned that the devil clans had invaded the upper province. Immediately, the entire world was shocked. The demons are invading? In the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary encampment on a nameless snowy mountain in the northern region, the Oracle Man was shocked when he heard the news. Sect leader, didn't you say, before he returned to the upper province, he destroyed the cross-province teleportation formation that was almost completed in the lower province? How could this be? While the Oracle Man was still in shock, he received more news about the Devil Clan's invasion of the upper province. It seems like the bodiless celestials from the Devil Clan have made their move. If a bodiless celestial from the Devil Clans makes a move, I'm afraid the bodiless celestials from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land won't be able to sit still, right? Thinking of this, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets remembered another very important matter. Not good. Most of the bodiless celestials are gathered in the northern region. If they decide to fight the bodiless celestials from the Devil Clans here, we'll definitely be affected. Looks like I can only bring them to that hidden ice mountain valley. Lin Yun muttered to himself. With this thought in mind, the Oracle Man no longer hesitated. He brought Duan Xiling, Ganru Yen, and Qinghua away from the nameless snowy mountain and headed to the Iceberg Valley where the Sword Saint's secret zone was opened. After returning to the Iceberg Valley, the Oracle Man and the others built temporary wooden houses in the valley for them to live in and cultivate. In the following month, a lot of major events took place. First, a group of bodiless celestials from the Devil Clans in the lower province repaired the cross-province teleportation formation in the shortest time possible so the Devil Clans could enter the upper province steadily. As soon as they entered the upper province, they began a massacre. Apart from that, many bodiless celestials from the Devil Clans came to the upper province and fought with the bodiless celestials there. Compared to the bodiless celestials from the Devil Clans, the bodiless celestials from the upper province were slightly weaker. This was because the Devil Clans were naturally bloodthirsty and aggressive. Many human bodiless celestials were killed. Many bodiless celestials from the Devil Clans were killed as well. However, in general, more human bodiless celestials were killed. At this moment, 2 announcements were made. The 2 announcements spread out in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At the same time, it also entered the ears of the old prophet. The Devil Clans have 1 month to leave the Dao Martial Saint Land and return to the land of exile. Otherwise, the Phoenix Clan will come out and annihilate the Devil Clans. At that time, there'll be no turning back. If the Devil Clans don't leave the Dao Martial Saint Land within a month, they'll be the enemy of the dragons. The Phoenix Clan and the dragons made the announcements one after another. The Phoenix Clan? The people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land could understand the strength of the dragons. After all, the dragons had shown their strength before the Devil Clans invaded the upper province. Not only did they have many bodiless celestials, but they even had 5 tribulation bodiless celestials and 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. As for the Phoenix Clan, apart from the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, who knew the Phoenix Clan was not inferior to the dragons, most people were unaware of this. For this reason, most people were skeptical of the announcement made by the Phoenix Clan. It was only when the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land spread the news that everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land learned about this. As it turned out, in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, not only was the Dragon Clan strong, but the Phoenix Clan was strong as well. The Phoenix clan was a powerful force that was not inferior to the Dragon clan. There were many bodiless celestials in the Phoenix clan as well. I didn't expect the Phoenix clan to be so strong as well. As it turns out, the strongest force in the Tao Martial Saint Land isn't Zoroastrianism, Zhuangzi Buddhism, or the Heaven Divination sect. It's the Dragons and the Phoenix clan that we thought were inferior to the three great sections. The Dragons and the Phoenix clan have made their announcements. If the Devil clans don't leave the Tao Martial Saint Land within a month, they'll make their move. The Devil clans are so cruel and bloodthirsty. Do you think they'll leave just because of the Dragons and the Phoenix clan? Although the Dragons and the Phoenix clan had made their announcements and asked the Devil clans to leave the Tao Martial Saint Land within a month, not many people thought the Devil clans would listen to them and leave. If the Devil clans were afraid of the Dragons and the Phoenix clan, why would they enter the Tao Martial Saint Land? Were they stupid? In fact, it was just as most people thought. The Devil clans did not care about the Dragons and the Phoenix clan's announcements at all. A month later, a large number of bodiless celestials appeared among the Dragons and Phoenixes. When these bodiless celestials appeared, the people from the three great sects in the Tao Martial Saint Land, including the Zoroastrianism, the Zhuangzi Buddhism, and the Heaven Divination sect, were stunned. This was because the first batch of bodiless celestials sent out by the Dragons and Phoenixes were mostly the ancestors of the three great sections. Only then did they realize it turned out that the three great sects had many loose immortal experts, but these loose immortal experts had all joined the Dragons and Phoenixes. Why? Why is that? Why would the loose immortals of Zoroastrianism seek refuge with the Dragons and Phoenixes? Why don't they stay in our Zhuangzi Buddhism and lead our Zhuangzi Buddhism to new glory? Instead, they are willing to be the dogs of the Dragons and Phoenixes, coming and going at their beck and call. The three great sects were in an uproar. They could not figure out why the ancestors of the three great sects who were at the level of itinerant immortals would join the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan and be willing to listen to the orders of the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan. Moreover, when the Devil clans invaded the upper province, they had taken the lead to fight for the Dragons and Phoenixes. They did not expect this at all. Now, it was not their wish for the itinerant immortal ancestors of the three great sects to come out and be cannon fodder. After all, who did not know that cannon fodder had a slim chance of survival? Under such circumstances, the ancestors of the three great sects had stepped forward because if they were unwilling to fight for the Dragons and Phoenixes, they would definitely die. After all, the powerhouses of the Dragons and Phoenixes were not to be trifled with. If they did not fight for the Dragons and Phoenixes, they would definitely die. However, if they fought for the Dragons and Phoenixes, they would most likely die. Under such circumstances, they had no choice but to choose the latter. In a secluded ice mountain valley in the northern region. Although I've heard from the sect leader that bodiless celestials from the three great sects would be captured by the Dragons and Phoenixes, I didn't expect there to be so many bodiless celestials in the three great sects. Although the old man of heavenly secrets was located in a remote place in the northern region, he was still very familiar with the situation outside. He was in charge of the information network of the Red Dust Progeny, the seventh absolute of the Seven Absolute sect. Ever since Han Shuanai's master had died, he had temporarily taken over the Red Dust Progeny's information network. Once Han Shuanai returned from the Sword Saint's secret zone, he would return the information network to Han Shuanai. Apart from that, it has been half a year since the sect leader and the others entered the Sword Saint's secret zone. I wonder how much they've gained in the past 6 months? The Oracle Man was filled with curiosity when he thought about this. In the Beyond Heaven secret zone. The Beyond Heaven secret zone? As it turns out, this is not the Sword Saint's secret zone but the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Moreover, we're not the only ones who have entered this place. There are people from the other 4 mundane realms as well. In the past 6 months, Duan Lingtian had encountered 2 groups of people from 2 different mundane realms. Currently, both groups of people had died in Duan Lingtian's hands. Chapter 2399. However, who created this Beyond Heaven secret zone? There's a celestial supreme treasure here? Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and a sword appeared in his hand. The sword was crystal clear and flawless. From afar, it looked like a pool of spring water. It gave off a comfortable feeling. However, this ordinary-looking sword was a celestial supreme treasure. Although this sword is inferior to the Jasper celestial sword, it's still a genuine celestial supreme treasure. I didn't expect the first thing I obtained after entering the Beyond Heaven secret zone would be a celestial sword. With this celestial sword, the strength of my attacks has surpassed the strength of a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. It should be comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he looked at the celestial sword in his hand. However, the strongest person among the two groups of people is only a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. If there's a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial among them, I might not even be able to keep this celestial sword. The celestial sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand could be said to be snatching food from a tiger's mouth. At that time, Duan Ling Tian had met one of the groups of people and learned that they had found a treasure. For this reason, he had followed them and discovered that the celestial sword was a treasure. The treasure mentioned by those people was actually a celestial supreme treasure. Moreover, it was a celestial sword. If it was another celestial supreme treasure, it would not be of much help to Duan Lingtian. However, if it was a celestial sword, it would be of great help to Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian was a sword cultivator, just like Feng Qingyang, since he had inherited the legacy from Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. The weapon of a sword cultivator was a sword. A sword was like a second life to a sword cultivator. If the sword lives, the man lives. If the sword dies, the man dies. Although these words were a little extreme, they perfectly explained the position of a sword in a sword cultivator's heart. To a sword cultivator, his sword was as important as his life. With Duan Ling Tian's current strength, a sword from the mundane realm, even a super saint weapon, would not be of any help to him. Only a sword that was a celestial supreme treasure or above would be of help to him. For this reason, when Duan Ling Tian discovered the treasure mentioned by those people was a celestial sword, he had already begun to think of a way to obtain it. He wanted to obtain the immortal sword. It just so happened that another group of people had arrived at this moment, and they wanted that immortal sword as well. It was even to the extent that they were in conflict with the group of people before them, and they even started fighting intensely without saying a single word. At this moment, Duan Lingtian struck like lightning. As soon as he made his move, he was like the Oriole behind the Oriole, grabbing the immortal sword. After obtaining the immortal sword, Duan Lingtian did not leave in a hurry. Instead, he stayed at the scene and observed the immortal sword in his hand. At this moment, the two groups of people had also stopped fighting. Their target was Duan Lingtian at the same time. After all, the reason they were fighting was because of the immortal sword. When they discovered the immortal sword was in the hands of a third party, there was no need for them to continue fighting since it would only benefit the third party. Good sword. When Duan Lingtian confirmed the sword in his hand was indeed a celestial supreme treasure, he could not help but feel excited. At this moment, the two groups of people made their moves. Moreover, they did not hesitate to kill Duan Lingtian. Among the two groups of people, the two strongest were 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. They were easily killed by Duan Lingtian's assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and the sword Dao mental cultivation method, the sovereign heart sword. After the two 5 tribulation bodiless celestials were killed by Duan Lingtian, the remaining people did not even have time to react before they were killed by Duan Lingtian. In the end, there was only one person left. It was this person. After some questioning, Duan Lingtian finally realized that the immortal sword was not in the Sword Dao realm. Currently, he was not in the Sword Saint secret zone. Instead, he was in a place called the Beyond Heaven secret zone. The Beyond Heaven secret zone was connected to 5 mundane realms. The mundane realm he was in was only one of the 5 mundane realms. Does this mean Senior Feng Qingyang didn't leave this place behind? Senior Feng Qingyang only managed to obtain a key for me. At that time, Duan Lingtian had also vaguely realized this. At that time, Duan Lingtian had asked the person about the Beyond Heaven secret zone. However, the person did not know anything. He only knew the Beyond Heaven secret zone had existed for a very long time and would only open once every 100,000 to 200,000 years. In other words, I can only rely on myself in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Senior Feng Qingyang didn't take special care of me here. I'll have to rely on myself to find any fortuitous encounters and resolve any dangers I might encounter later on. When Duanling Tian realized this, he could not help but feel a little heavy-hearted. Previously, he had thought that Duanling Tian was in the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone. Since he was in the Sword Saint Secret Zone created by Senior Feng Qingyang, even if there were any dangers in there, it would only serve to train him. As long as he worked hard, he would definitely be able to obtain the legacy left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. However, at this moment, he realized there was a possibility. Perhaps there was no legacy left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. After all, this was the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone. Even a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial would put aside everything he was doing and enter the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone to obtain a fortuitous encounter. Based on this, one could tell the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone was not simple. For this reason, Duanling Tian no longer thought the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone was left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. Based on what I know, before Senior Feng Qingyang ascended, his strongest technique was the 5 stages of the Sovereign Heart Sword. The fact that he was able to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial must have something to do with the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone. Duanling Tian thought to himself, perhaps Senior Feng Qingyang had entered the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone and obtained a fortuitous encounter that allowed him to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial. When Duanling Tian first learned about the Sword Saint Secret Zone, he could not help but feel puzzled. The Sovereign Heart Sword left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang had transcended the mundane realm. However, even if one completely comprehended the 5 stages of the Sovereign Heart Sword, one's strength would, at most, be comparable to a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. How was Senior Feng Qingyang able to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial? Duanling Tian could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. If Senior Feng Qingyang had any other means up his sleeves, that would be too ridiculous, right? Was he still human? However, now that he knew the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone was left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, he could not help but wonder. He could not help but speculate. Perhaps Senior Feng Qingyang had also entered the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone and obtained a fortuitous encounter. The more Duanling Tian thought about it, the more certain he became. In fact, Duanling Tian was right. I didn't think there would be people from 4 mundane realms who entered the Beyond Heaven Secret Zone apart from the people around me. Moreover, there are many bodiless celestials among the people from the other mundane realms. Based on what the last person said before he was killed, there were at least 100 bodiless celestials from the mundane realm he was in. There were at least 100 bodiless celestials. When that person's words entered Duanling Tian's ears, Duanling Tian's heart could not help but tremble. Although he might be able to fight a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial now that he had obtained the celestial sword, however, who could say for sure among the 100 bodiless celestials, was there anyone among them who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment? It was common knowledge that the body of a bodiless celestial was formed from the soul and the body's energy. The body's energy had to be stabilized by the soul at all times. For this reason, it was impossible for bodiless celestials to cast soul attacks as easily as they did in the past. After becoming a bodiless celestial, if one rashly cast a soul attack, one might die. This was unless one had mastered the soul congregation embodiment. The so-called soul congregation embodiment was a dharma body that only those who were extremely skilled in soul techniques before becoming bodiless immortals would have a chance to cultivate after becoming bodiless immortals. Once one had mastered the soul congregation embodiment, one would be able to cast soul attacks as they wished. There was no need to worry about dying if one rashly cast soul attacks like ordinary bodiless celestials. There are so many bodiless celestials. It's not impossible for 1 or 2 of them to have mastered the soul congregation embodiment. Duanling Tian could not help but inwardly gasp when he thought about this. If a bodiless celestial who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment technique, even a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial would be able to severely injure his soul before he could kill him. If it was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment technique, his soul wouldn't be able to withstand it. Perhaps his current strength was not bad. Chapter 2400. In other words, if it was a bodiless celestial who had not cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique, with Duan Lingtian's current strength and the celestial sword he had just obtained, he might even be able to defeat a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, if it was a bodiless celestial who had cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique, even a three-tribulation bodiless celestial would pose a great threat to him if he could not kill them in time, let alone a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Previously, Duan Ling Tian had asked his servant, Channy Ru, a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, how many bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saintland who had cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique. According to Channy Ru, he had never heard of any bodiless celestials who had cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique. At that time, Duan Lingtian knew bodiless celestials who had cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique were extremely rare. Naturally, it did not mean they did not exist. Even if Channy Ru had not heard of them, it did not mean they did not exist. According to that person, there are more than 100 bodiless celestials from his mundane realm who have entered the beyond heaven secret zone. Moreover, he said his mundane realm did not have the most people who have entered the beyond heaven secret zone. In other words, there are many bodiless celestials from other mundane realms as well. Since there are so many bodiless celestials, there must be some who have cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique as well. It seems like I'll have to be more careful in the beyond heaven secret zone. Apart from 8 tribulation bodiless celestials who pose a great threat to me, ordinary bodiless celestials who have cultivated the soul congregation embodiment technique are also a great threat to me. Duan Lingtian's heart sank when he thought about this. He had thought only he and the people around him had entered the beyond heaven secret zone. However, he didn't expect that there would be a group of people from the other 4 mundane realms aside from the people around him. Moreover, there was no lack of bodiless celestials who were as strong as Channy Ru or even stronger than him. I wonder how Tian Wu, Xuanai, and Sandao are doing. Duan Lingtian didn't see the person who came in before him after passing through the black hole and arriving at this place. Even though he waited for a long time, he didn't see the person who came in after him. At that time, he knew that the people who had come here through the black hole had all been separated. Since then, he had embarked on a path of solitude. Along the way, he didn't encounter anyone, nor did he encounter anything that attracted his attention. In half a year, the only thing he had obtained was an immortal sword. However, he was already very satisfied with this. After all, he had only been here for half a year. He still had 9.5 years left in the beyond heaven secret zone. It was more than enough for him to continue searching for more treasures. If Senior Feng Qingyang really obtained a great fortuitous encounter in the beyond heaven secret zone that allowed him to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials, I wonder what fortuitous encounter he obtained. If I'm able to obtain such a fortuitous encounter, I'll be able to do whatever I want in the devil clans, let alone the Dao Martial Saint Land. When Duan Ling Tian thought of this, his eyes lit up again. They were like 2 dazzling stars in the night sky that shone brightly. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. All of a sudden, the sound of wind whistling in the air attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. When Duan Lingtian turned around, he saw 4 figures flying toward him from the distance. As the 4 figures drew closer, Duan Lingtian could vaguely make out that 3 of them were men and 1 was a woman. As the 4 figures drew closer, Duan Lingtian took a good look at them. The only woman among the 4 of them was a young woman. In terms of appearance, although she could not compare to his 2 wives or Tian Wu, her facial features were extremely delicate and pretty. Her skin was fair and rosy, like the skin of a baby. It gave people a feeling that it could be broken with a flick of a finger. If this woman was on Earth in his past life, she would be able to make a living with her looks if she was an actress or broadcaster. The other 3 men were young men. One of them was tall and sturdy, giving off a rough feeling. However, his eyes revealed a wise and far-sighted luster. Clearly, He was not as rough as he looked on the surface. The other man had a medium build and an ordinary appearance. His eyes were dull, and he gave off a dull vibe. The last man was well-built and handsome. Naturally, he was not as handsome as Duan Lingtian. Whether it was the young woman, the muscular young man, or the dull young man, Duan Lingtian found them pleasing to the eye. Only the last young man with a slightly handsome appearance and a strong figure gave Duan Lingtian a feeling that he did not really like. Just by looking at his eyes, I can tell he's not a good person. From the beginning until the end, Duan Lingtian had been observing the young man's eyes. When the young man glanced at the young woman, his eyes were filled with lust. It was as though he could not wait to push her to the ground and ravage her on the spot. Moreover, when he looked at the muscular young man and the dull young man, there was a hint of arrogance and disdain in his eyes. It was as though he looked down on the two of them. There's someone over there. It seems like we'll have a new member in our small group. With one more person, it'll be safer for us to enter that place. Before the four of them got closer, Duan Lingtian heard the muscular young man's words. At this moment, the muscular young man was looking at him as he spoke to his companions. If he joins us, we'll have 5 people. 5 people should be enough, right? At this moment, the young woman was also looking at Duan Lingtian. Her eyes were shining. Zhang Yi, Rongbo, what do you think? The muscular young man looked at the dull young man and the last young man and asked. Agreed. The dull young man nodded. He was a man of few words. I don't care, as long as he doesn't drag us down. The last young man's gaze was mostly on the young woman beside him. After he glanced at Duan Lingtian, who was in the distance, he shrugged indifferently. Of course, even if he drags us down and encounters danger, I won't save him. Rongbo. When the muscular young man heard the young man's words, he frowned. If he joins us, he'll be our companion. If he's in danger, we'll naturally have to help him. You're going overboard with your words. Overboard? The young man, Rongbo, smiled disdainfully when he heard the sturdy young man's words. Let alone him, even if it's Zhang Yi or you, Wang Shi. I won't save you if you encounter any danger in that place. The young man who was Rongbo said with a disdainful smile. The most I can do is help Lu Xia a little. Rongbo continued to look at the young woman next to him when he reached the end of his sentence. The young woman, Lu Xia, frowned. However, she did not say anything in the end. Hearing Rongbo's words, Wang Shi frowned. Even the dull Zhang Yi couldn't help but frown for a moment. After a while, he relaxed his brows. However, both of them did not say anything in the end. It was as though they had the same concerns as Lu Xia. Let's go. Let's go. Wang Shi took a deep breath and ignored Rongbo. After he finished speaking, he flew toward the purple figure in the distance. I've changed my mind. If this gigolo's cultivation base isn't at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage, I won't let him join us. When Zhang Yi and Lu Xia followed Wang Shi, Rongbo also caught up with them and said at the same time, I'm not at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage either. Lu Xia said with a frown on her face. You're a woman, but he's not. Rongbo looked at the purple figure standing in the distance. His eyes narrowed into slits, and a cold light flashed through them. This young man is called Rongbo. I don't think I've offended him, right? Not only did Duan Lingtian hear the conversation between the 4 people, but he also saw the cold glint in Rongbo's eyes when he looked at him. He was puzzled. From the beginning until the end, he did not have any interaction with Rongbo at all. Why was Rongbo picking on him? Hello, I'm Lu Xia. At the same time, the group of 4 arrived in front of Duan Lingtian. The young woman took the lead and smiled at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was tall, had an outstanding bearing, and was handsome. He was much more handsome than the other 3 young men beside Lu Xia. For this reason, she had a good impression of Duan Lingtian. Of course, this was entirely because of Duan Lingtian's perfect appearance, and she had a good impression of him. I see. When Lu Xia took the initiative to greet Duan Lingtian noticed a hint of jealousy in Rongbo's eyes. As it turned out, Rongbo was jealous of Lu Xia's friendliness toward him. I'm Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian did not have to guess to know these 4 people were from the other 4 mundane realms. For this reason, There was no need for him to hide his identity. Even if these 4 people were from the same mundane realm as him, there was no need for him to hide his identity. Duan Lingtian, Wang Shi and I discovered a place a month ago. We're certain there's something good there. However, due to our limited strength, we decided to look for a few more companions to explore the place. First, we found Zhang Yi, then we found Rongbo. Currently, Rongbo is the strongest among the 4 of us. He's an eminent celestial. As soon as Lucia finished speaking, Rongbo raised his head arrogantly and looked at Duan Lingtian with disdain. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.